What's up, San Diego, and happy Thursday to all of you out there as we have the madness has begun. March Madness has officially gotten underway with Creighton and Louisville wrapping up the first half. Creighton has a 47-27 lead on Louisville. That little coin flip matchup that we talked about yesterday when I helped you fill out your brackets, I said it doesn't really matter who you pick in this game because they're not going to win the next round anyway. They're not going to beat Auburn in the next round anyway. So you shouldn't have to worry about it. But I always think it's funny when the TV companies, because they pick the tip times, decide to go the 8-9 game, one of the 8-9 games that's supposed to be close as the first game of the tournament just to wipe out half of everybody's brackets. So that game is underway and about to get ready to go to halftime. The High Point Purdue game has gotten underway. They're at the under 12 mark, 18-14 lead for the Boilermakers over the High Point Panthers. High Point in North Carolina is a school that not a lot of people have heard of. I have heard of the school because my sister actually attended High Point University. It is a gorgeous campus in the middle of High Point, North Carolina, which is not too far from the high school that Will Myers attended, while he was in high school. But the coolest thing about High Point, it's such a fancy looking school. Tuition is not as up to probably the level of fanciness that is at the school. But the coolest thing about High Point is part of their meal plan at the school. They have a steakhouse on campus that you can sign up for the reservation. It counts as a swipe like you would at a cafeteria in college. And then they teach you how to, eat at a fine establishment or a dinner party or something like that, and you got a nice steakhouse on campus. That's crazy. High Point Panthers won the Big South this year, did a pretty good job. They're in their first NCAA tournament. They're down 18-16 Purdue early, 10:36 to go in the first half. We will keep you updated on March Madness as it goes throughout the day. These first 2 days are some of the best 2 days, I think, in all of college basketball, and I honestly think in sports, with the way that the NCAA tournament is. The NCAA tournament is probably one of the best sporting events that is out there because of so many different things. I said it earlier this week. I mean, this is one of the only times with a single elimination tournament, and the fact that not a lot of these players are going to go on to play in the NBA, and not a lot of these players are going to go on to play internationally. When you get to these levels where there's a lot of seniors on these teams, this is the last that these guys will ever play basketball. They will never play basketball again in an organized form like this. They've been playing since they were 5 years old. They've played through high school, all the workouts, all the camps, all the tournaments, everything that they have put together comes down to one more opportunity to continue your playing career. And that's why you see all this passion. That's why you see this level of intensity from all of these teams. And if you haven't attended a March Madness event, I mean, I highly recommend doing it. It is really remarkable. The energy in the building is insane. And you have both fan bases, obviously, for the two teams, and they have their sections. And then the other two sections, behind benches, or the other two teams that are playing next. And then you have the mix of all the local crowds in there. And as Steve Fisher talked about earlier this week, the winning over of the neutral fans is such a huge element into March Madness. I mean, it really sways the momentum. It's just a fun tournament. It's just so much fun to watch. I mean, you're going to see teams that you would have no expectations for go out there and do a really good job and shock the world. That's why it's impossible to win these brackets. Almost impossible. I think it's over 1 billion odds to try to win, fill out a perfect bracket. And every time I tell people when they ask for help when it comes to filling out a bracket, I always go, you're better off doing it yourself because there's really no skill involved aside from make sure you don't pick any of the 16 seeds to go very far. It's a great time. I can't wait to keep updated on this. High Point, Purdue, now tied at 20. That will be a fun one. To me, it starts getting interesting when you start getting games in the second half. And I can remember all the times growing up throughout the years of how you would watch the NCAA tournament. I mean, when I was in college, I didn't go to school these 2 days. Now, I was a sports broadcasting major, so Most of the time it was about this. I usually took morning classes, and being in the central time zone, games didn't tip off until 11 o'clock. So I was pretty much done with school before all the games tipped off. And me and my buddies for 4 straight years in college all brought out our own personal TVs into the living area, had 4 TVs, all with all the different games on. And we would watch basketball from like sun up to sundown. And again, there's some late night basketball when you're in the central time zone or in the eastern time zone. But it's just a fun day all day. I mean, I know people that take work off just to watch the NCAA tournament. And I'm going to get the poll question out there in a second. Is it okay to take work off for these 2 days? Are you going to burn a vacation day for the next 2 days to watch the NCAA tournament? I think it's justified. It's a great experience, and it's a fun tournament to be a part of. We'll keep you updated throughout the show. Obviously, big game for UCSD tonight. They take on Michigan. This is the biggest game in their school's history. First time ever in the NCAA tournament. Women's team lost yesterday in a play-in game, but the fact that UCSD men's and women's basketball both made the tournament in the first year they're eligible, not only is that historical, it's remarkable. And we had Earl Edwards on last week talking about, he's the athletic director or the director of athletics for UCSD, about where they have come from D3 to D2 to now D1, Big West champions in both men's and women's basketball and playing in the NCAA tournament. I mean, you have to really take a step back and just go like, I can't believe this is happening. But enjoy the moment to anybody that's a UCSD alum that's excited for their basketball team. Enjoy being in the NCAA tournament. I know my sister, who doesn't watch a lot of High Point basketball, is tuned in. She already asked me for the DirecTV login so she can watch High Point play Purdue. There's nothing like watching your own school play in the NCAA tournament. So to all you Triton fans out there and Triton alumni, have a fun time tonight and go shock the world. And the thing is with this team, I think they have a team that's built to be able to shock the world because of that senior leadership that they have. The fact that they've played together for a long time now. They've played a lot of basketball with that experience. And the way they play for each other is a huge aspect in the NCAA tournament. Plus the fact they create a lot of turnovers. Michigan's sloppy with the basketball. And they can hit the three-pointer. That's the recipe for success for an underdog in the NCAA tournament. They'll tip off at 7. We'll talk more about what they have done to get the program to where it is. And there's an interesting recruiting tactic that Mark Ziegler laid out in an article in the San Diego Union Tribune that Eric Olin and his staff used that is creating great success for them. And I'm curious whether or not that might be the mold for future mid-major programs. We got a couple people in the chat. UCSD faculty members super fired up that UCSD is in the NCAA tournament. I mean, it's going to be fun. Now, if they could get the dub, that'd be great, because right now we're down to 2 teams left in San Diego after getting 4 to qualify. Aztecs men's basketball lost early this week. UCSD women's basketball lost last night. Need to get a spark here before Saturday when the Aztecs women's basketball team takes on LSU. They're a 20-point dog in that one. That one's going to be a lot difficult to overcome. But we'll get you a full preview of the game tonight against Michigan. We'll also talk about that, recruiting aspect that might be the mold for a lot of mid-majors and whether or not UCSD can keep it up, because a lot of other schools are starting to follow this model as well. We'll talk about that later on. I saw John Heyman on Twitter last night. He's doing some podcast or something. The transition of Padres baseball. He talked about the Padres plan and how he was surprised that the Padres didn't sell Dylan Cease and Michael King and Robert Suarez and Jake Cronenworth. I'd like to know what national pundits think about the Padres. I mean, honestly, I understand to an extent that this is the way baseball is, but this whole notion of they have to be, they can't have the Padres be one of the top spenders or one of the contenders in baseball. And and every time they have years where they spend, it's like they got to cut payroll, to try to facilitate them shipping off some of the best players to the high market teams like they used to. I'm so done with that narrative. It's such a lazy narrative. I don't know why they're not selling off all these pieces. Come on, man. The way that he presents it and like the total shock of John Heyman talking about, I can't believe they didn't sell. I can't believe they're not trying to cut payroll here. And the best one is they think they can win. They think they have a team that could go to the playoffs. Why wouldn't they? They have some of the best players in Major League Baseball on their team. Why wouldn't they think that? They have Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado and good rotation spots, Michael King and Dylan Cease. They got a lot of veterans on the team. I mean, it's a solid team. That went to the playoffs last year. It was probably a couple of innings away if they scored some runs from making the World Series themselves, potentially winning it. I mean, the National League is far better than the American League. I don't think I'm going on a limb saying that right now, the way the teams are constructed. But the utter shock every time I hear a national guy say, the Padres actually think they can compete. Hilarious to me. We'll talk about that in the 11 o'clock hour. Angels ban cell phones in the clubhouse. I don't think that's that bad of an idea. We'll talk about that. Different tiers of the Major League Baseball season. Again, we'll keep you updated on March Madness all day. We will talk a little NFL today. We got buy or sell overreactions to NFL free agency, kind of recap what the NFL did in free agency and everything like that. But lots to talk about today on the show. Today is we'll say it when we come back. An ode to my parents for really fighting to keep me alive, because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them, the blood bank. I'll tell that story when we come back on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 10:18 on March 20th, 2025. My 30th birthday. I'm now 30 years old. So that was a rough one to wake up to this morning. My age starting with a 3 now instead of a 2, which is what it's been for obviously the last decade or so. Since I played softball last night, I was definitely thinking I was going to wake up to my body just being completely in a cast of just pain, because that's what I was told when you turn 30. So not at that point yet, thank the Lord, but it is my 30th birthday today. And I usually tell this story either on my birthday or when we do live shows to the blood bank, just because of how much of an impact it made, obviously in my life, but then everybody that I know in my family and my friend group, and today, when it comes to, oh man, the San Diego State kid was giving you crap, Woods, for leaving your water bottle. My trough of water. His trough of water. My eco water. That Woods has a gigantic container of water. Like it's like the water. It's almost like a tank that you would have at your house that he walks around with. You could probably just do curls with that thing. But anyway, like when it comes to, it's obviously it's not a birthday without all the love and sacrifice that your parents brought for you to be in this world. So obviously a big thanks to them, but even more so, when I was born, there's a lot of complications, and I was the first. I'm the first born for my family. I mean, my mom was 29 when she had me. I'm 30 now, and I don't have kids. I'm not married, any of that stuff. So I can't imagine what she went through that day. It was a very tough day for my mom and dad and my immediate family. To be the firstborn and to potentially, not make it through. Is obviously very tough for a lot of parents out there. And I was born in Pomerado Hospital, across the street from St. Michael's Catholic school, where I ended up going to school, which is kind of funny. But as I kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And then, finally, when I was born, they took me out of my mother's arms and rushed me to Children's Hospital because I had some serious problems. And it turned out that my body was not producing platelets to stop bleeding. And so a lot of blood donations, a lot of donations from the blood bank, from my family, obviously a lot from my mom, to fight to keep me alive. It was like a 2-week process at Children's Hospital, obviously a lot for my parents to go through. But, if it wasn't for the blood bank, the San Diego Blood Bank, and obviously my mom and my dad, I wouldn't be here talking with sports with you guys. So it's really a miracle that I'm here. I'm here. I'm healthy. I was supposed to have I was not supposed to be not be able to play sports. I was supposed to have some mental, mental disabilities and all these other things that could have happened. I ended up being, perfectly healthy. I'm living a great, perfect, healthy life. And all of that comes to the blood bank. So, I really can't talk about my birthday, and, everybody says happy birthday and all that stuff. But the reality is it was a rough day for a lot of members of my family for a while. And that's why I always like to say, about the blood bank. And when we go do those shows, I love helping out the San Diego Blood Bank. I like to show people that, this is what you're donating to, right? You don't know the people that need these donations, these transfusions. I am one of those people. I'm one of those survivors that really benefited from the blood bank. Now, the majority of the blood that I got for me was from my mom, but the blood bank is the thing that really helped me get over the top. So I really appreciate what you guys do when you go out and donate blood. I highly recommend doing that. So, for everybody that wishes me a happy birthday, a big thank you. And always it's I try to relay that on my birthday, that you could go out and help a lot of people that you don't know you're helping when you donate blood. So really appreciate the blood bank, obviously. And it's great to be here. I love being here. I've been here for 30 years now on this planet. I hopefully continue to do that for a longer time. But that's my little spiel, if you will.
And I can tell you, Braden, I've donated blood just about every year at the San Diego Food Blood Bank as well, and it's not painful. It's a really easy process. Takes 10 or 15 minutes, not painful, and it really goes to a good cause. And then you can get updates from them as to where your blood is going and the impact that it's making. And so I would highly recommend doing it. They do a great job.
So it's and that's kind of and I love that. We when we get invited to do live shows out there at the blood bank, we're always about it, and I always like being down there. So really appreciate all of you guys that go out there and donate blood. The reason I really started telling my story when it came to the blood bank was I did the Padres Pedal for a Cause, a couple years ago. And, with the Pedal for the Cause, they actually had a little girl that had, a rare form of cancer. And the money that they raised at Pedal for the Cause that particular year, they were able to donate to this cancer research fund that helped her go through some experimental kind of processes of trying to eliminate some of her cancer, and it worked out. And it was like every time you go do those volunteer work or you donate blood, you always are told that it's helping people, but when you don't get to see the person or hear the story, it's a little bit different. I think it goes a little bit longer of a way when you see that person or who that person is. So now all of you out there that listen to Sports Talk Radio, that listen to the Braden Surprenant Show, that are good fans of our show, that the blood bank saved my life and kept me alive today as a newborn. And so that's your incentive to go out there and donate blood if you have the opportunity. Remember my story because you don't know who you might be helping out in the future or who you're helping out right now. So I greatly appreciate that. And again, no appointment needed to donate blood. Jocelyn's saying they have one, has an open blood bank donation drive today at Sage Creek High School up in the North County. So go out to Carlsbad. Sage Creek High School is having an open blood donation drive today. No appointment needed. You could go up there and help donate blood and impact a lot of people like me and my family that are obviously happy that I'm here. So that's that. Tonight, we're going to go out and I'm excited to go out and hang out with my family tonight, me and my parents and my brother. We're going to go to, a couple of places, but we've got the last couple of times. It's fun to go to the top of the Hyatt. I don't know if anybody's checked out top of the Hyatt. Get great views of downtown. There's a bar up there and everything like that. So that's where we're going to go after I get off work after the show. And then a little bit of Cowboy Star for dinner downtown. Love Cowboy Stars. So I'm excited for that. It'll be a nice little time. And then for me, in terms of birthday talk, and we're going to get to UCSD here in a second. For my birthday, I don't ask for cake. I don't do cake on my birthday anymore. I do Buckeye pie. Does anybody know what Buckeye pie is? Anybody know what Buckeye pie is? Buckeye pie is delicious. I like chocolate and peanut butter. Buckeye pie is like a giant Reese's. It's got like an Oreo cookie crust, and it's got a peanut butter filling, and then it's got a chocolate ganache on top, and it's the most delicious thing ever. That's the dessert I request because, first of all, it's really rich, and also, if I don't make it, I'm not going to get it, and if I want to have it, I might as well get it for my birthday. So that's what I do instead of cake. I do Buckeye pie. Everybody else in my family does cake. I do the Buckeye pie. So that's what the rest of the day is going to be, but we got to dive in on some sports, obviously. High Point down 10 to Purdue with 42 seconds left in the first half, 35-25 in favor of the Boilermakers. Creighton has a 49-34 lead on Louisville at the half. And then new games coming up. Montana and Wisconsin is about to tip off in about 3 minutes to get you underway for that morning slate of college basketball games. At noon, we'll get you the full look of what you should be watching for in March Madness. A lot of great matchups coming up later on today. But when we come back, UCSD, what Eric Olin has accomplished is phenomenal with that program. What UCSD has done as a Division I school in such a limited amount of time is phenomenal. What's their secret? Well, it was reported in the newspaper, especially for basketball, so I don't feel like I'm giving it away, but I'm going to let you know what their secret was to developing this team and why a lot of mid-major programs might start following UCSD in the future. We'll talk about it next on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 10:34 on a Thursday morning. Sometimes I just get into I get robotic with just saying the same things over and over again. Like I've said live and local on Sundays from 8 to 10 for an entire year straight every Sunday that I've almost said it about 15 times since we started. The other thing that I've done at least 15 times broadcasting for USD baseball is they got a kid on their team named Connor Mydroth. His brother Chase Mydroth played. I've called him Chase about 100 times already on the broadcast, or in which I have to immediately correct myself. No, his name's Connor. You just get in the habit sometimes. You just get into the rhythm a little bit. Can't get robotic out there. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're going to get some baseball coverage in the 11 o'clock hour. Baseball coverage on 97 through the Fan is presented by T-Mobile. Head to T-Mobile.com and get a great deal on an iPhone 16 Pro. We're going to be talking a lot of college basketball today, obviously, with March Madness going on with the NCAA tournament. We're going to be live tomorrow at Dave & Buster's in Mission Valley. Come by and say hi. Come hang out with us as we watch college basketball together. And hopefully we're talking about UCSD playing on Sunday playing on Saturday because they won today. But it should be a fun time tomorrow at Dave & Buster's.
You know, Braden, we recently had a really nice discussion about how do you like to watch your teams, right? With other people or alone or whatever. Georgia Bulldogs playing in the NCAA tournament today at 1:35 while we're here during your show. Gonna have to have that up on the TV, and I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm a huge Georgia basketball fan, but I went to school there. They're my team. They're gonna be on for the first time in probably 15 years in the tournament. Gonna be a little bit of a nervous wreck there.
At least it's only the last 30 minutes of the show.
Right. But I still have work to do afterwards. I'll be watching it.
Sure. Yeah, that's when you put it on your phone and stuff like that, and put it on the side.
I mean, seriously, how much work gets done in offices around the country today and tomorrow?
Almost
just national holiday it.
My buddy Matt already took today off. I mean, he worked the morning shift. He's off at noon. He's going to watch.
He better be joining us tomorrow at Dave & Buster's.
Oh, he's got to work tomorrow. He took today off instead of tomorrow. And I was like, why did you do that?
Rookie
I told you
move.
we're going to be at Dave & Buster's.
Rookie move.
My buddy Mike's going to be there, but that's because his UC Irvine Anteaters are not playing anymore. Which that was kind of funny, honestly. Today, these texts are hilarious that I got. And I'm not going to read them word for word, but he woke up today, and his girlfriend, like my buddy Mike, is a diehard sports fan. He's a sicko when it comes to college sports. Like he's the guy that's probably has watched SIU Edwardsville already this year, or whatever the school is. He's probably seen a handful of High Point Big South games. Guy's locked into every one of his teams. Let me ask you this question, Adam. I mean, because you're married, right? So it's a little bit different. But do you have to make sure that you watch every single one of your favorite sports teams when they start and plan your life around said sports teams? I don't think you could do that anymore. You have kids. Were you ever like that? I mean, for me, I love TCU football and the Frogs. I love the Padres. But I can't adjust my entire life to that particular, got to watch it right here at the start. He does that all the time, and his girlfriend gets so mad at him.
I'm very blessed to have a wife who loves sports as well. Now, not to the same level as me, but she understands that she loves sports, and she understands what I do for a living, and so she kind of deals with me. You said every single sport.
He needs to pick and choose, in my opinion, because he's got. So this is what he's got.
It's different. I watch every single Padres game. I watch most Braves games, not from start to finish, but I try and watch, at least catch a little bit of it. But the Falcons, right? That's once a week during football season. Same with Georgia. We are planning around those and watching. We still have some stuff going on Sundays. And so I kind of catch the majority of it if I can, but it's not sit down, start to finish, uninterrupted. But Georgia football, since my wife went there as well, she's her Georgia football, I'd say her number one team. And so that it's we are watching it basically from start to finish. Now, the big thing is, and I know we give Elo crap about this all the time.
With the taping.
We'll DVR it, right? Because I might have my son's baseball game or soccer or we're out and about, but we will DVR it and then we will sit down and start it from start to finish. And that's when you go, do not disturb on the phone because I don't want to get notifications or text messages about what's going on.
So my buddy Mike, he won't do certain things with us or his girlfriend if one of his teams is playing.
Like you are going to the beach or going to do something, going to hike or
hey, we want to go. Hey, let's go hang out at whatever tonight. Got to be locked in on West Kentucky basketball. What?
No.
I'm sorry. No, but here's the thing with Mike. The guy's a passionate fan, but he played baseball at Irvine, and he and he did his graduate at West Kentucky. So he has those 2 college teams. He grew up a Penn State fan. So that's 3 college teams that he has to be locked in on for almost all of their sports. Then he likes the Pods. He doesn't really get as locked in on the Padres as much as the college. But to me, it's like you got to pick what your favorite one is. You know what? If it's going to be Irvine, since that's your, where you got your degree, your bachelor's degree, fine.
But there's too many of them.
Too many
to totally get in the way of doing things. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
I got made fun of for this a while ago, but I'll say it anyways. A couple of years ago, my wife likes Dan and Shay, right? And so they were coming to town. I got tickets. I'm like, I got tickets for you. I will take you to the Dan and Shay concert. Guess what? It coincided with a Braves playoff game. I think this was back in the pandemic season when they played in Texas with no fans, and it was against the Dodgers. And it was the NLCS game. I DVR'd the game. We got home from the concert at whatever it was, midnight. I watched the entire game from start to finish, starting with the first inning at midnight. Watched the whole thing, had no notifications or anything. Braves hit a walk-off hit in the bottom of the 9th, and I was screaming at 2:30 in the morning. But like something, if it's that important, I will DVR it and watch it. Now, make sure I see it. But I mean, like, it's not going to get in the way of going to a concert or doing something with my family.
At least your wife is into sports to some level. My buddy's girlfriend, Sienna, is not that into sports. She could care less about anything. She went to Grand Canyon, and
I got to stop you there. Couldn't care less.
She couldn't care less.
If she could care less,
that's right.
Means she actually cares.
She couldn't care less about sports at all. Like she'll go, and it like Mike will bring her to certain games. Like they've gone to the Rose Bowl to watch Penn State, and she was enamored by leading the "We Are" chant. She would yell "We Are," and then everybody would yell Penn State. She was super fired up about that. But he's a sicko for college athletics, and she's not interested in sports at all. So he has to pick out times where he's like, look, Saturday, I'm going to be locked into Penn State football, but we could do anything else any other night. Like he has to do that with his girlfriend. But the thing that gets him on those is he likes Penn State. At least Irvine doesn't have football, but West Kentucky plays on Tuesdays for the midweek stuff in Conference USA. And so he'll have the game on a Tuesday, and Sienna be like, what's this? I thought you said Penn State plays on Saturday. Yeah, but West Kentucky plays today. They play on Tuesday, trying to fit his time. So what sparked this conversation was his girlfriend this morning, since March Madness started, and he's got season tickets to Irvine. Obviously, he's unlike most people in San Diego, he's obviously not thrilled about the Tritons being in the NCAA tournament. But if I went to a rival school of one of the schools in town, I would feel the same way, even though I'm from San Diego. I'm going to be loyal to the school that I attended. But that's not the case. So he goes, Mike, this is what she said this morning. So UCI sucks and didn't make the tournament, which is why you guys were upset when you got home from Vegas. And then goes on to go, you're telling me you went all the way to Vegas just to watch UCSD play? Why didn't you just watch them here? In which my buddy tried to explain to her the whole 2-bid league thing and everything like that. He's like, it's like trying to talk to a fence. It's not going to work. She's just not going to be interested in this. And the whole conversation started with, she is hosting a severance party tonight. Does anybody know what that is? A severance party?
Assuming that's for the Apple TV show?
Yeah, it's to watch Severance with her friends tonight.
So that's a whole nother level of what we recently discussed about. Do you watch sporting events with other people? At least during a sporting event, right? Like you talk and you cheer and you're talking about strategy. Should they go for it on fourth down? Should they take out the starting pitch? Whatever. If you're watching a TV show together, you all just gather and sit in silence.
Yeah, you're not going to discuss about it. You can't have like open topics about it unless you're going to pause, because then you don't want to be the guy talking during the show. So It's kept to the severance party tonight, watch party. I don't know where he's going to watch ball, but it's probably not at his house now with the severance party going on. The fight for the TV is real in that house. That's hilarious. In the chat, apparently Severance is not exactly a show that you watch with other people. I didn't know that. Well, I mean, most shows like in-depth shows like that are probably not ones
I watched the first couple of episodes of Severance a year or so ago. I didn't get into it. I wasn't hooked. It was a slow burn, as they say. But I know everyone loves it. And it kind of makes me want to go back and start from the beginning and watch it again. But it was slow.
I don't need to. Is it weird that I don't watch TV too much anymore? I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch sports, and then I can't get myself into shows. The last show I got into was Landman, and
I've heard good things.
Huh?
I've heard good things.
It's great. Landman was great, and I like it for more than just the fact that there's a bunch of that TCU's in the show. But it's cool because the cool part for me is I've been to that part of the country multiple times in Odessa, Midland, and get the oil stuff and whatever like that. But I liked, and the way I found out that they're coming out with season 2 is I still get emails forwarded to me from my TCU email. They're looking for TCU.
Hold on. Your TCU email is still active?
Yeah, it's still I thought it was going to be deactivated, and so I made a new email, and I set up a forwarding just in case anything important got sent over for my tcu.edu email address.
This is breaking news from 97.3 The Fan.
Braden's TCU email is still active.
It's still active, apparently. I can't access it.
How long has it been since you graduated?
I graduated in 2017.
8 years later?
Yeah, it still works.
Get on that, TCU.
They're one of the schools, I guess, that lets you keep your email. I didn't know that. I thought I was going to lose it, so I had everything automatically forward to me. And one of the emails I got forwarded to me was they're looking for student extras for the shooting of Landman 2 at TCU's campus. And I was like, oh, couple of great things here. One, Landman's going to have a second season. And two, there's still going to be TCU references in it. It's great.
One of our most loyal listeners, Jocelyn, in the YouTube chat says my ASU email is still valid. I'm just going to assume that she only graduated from college a year or two ago. She's so young and vibrant that it's not as surprising that that's still active compared to yours.
Of course. Yeah. It's been, 8 years now from college. Some schools let you keep your email. I think High Point lets you do that because my sister still has a High Point email. So there's that. 65-52 is the lead for Creighton right now over Louisville with 11:37 to go in the second half. There is an injury on the court that has held up the game, so hopefully that player is okay. Obviously, a lot of shots right now of very concerned fans, so I hope it's not a very significant injury as one of the players in pain. So that game is in a delay. The Purdue High Point game is at halftime, and Wisconsin and Montana just tipped off. We don't have too much time to get into UCSD in terms of setting the precedent for mid-majors in college basketball. I do want to talk about that in the 11 o'clock hour, but I will say this about UCSD and what Eric Olin has done. There's just this feel right now about the program. I don't know what it is. I have this feeling that they're going to win tonight. I just think they have a lot of this say symptoms, but they have a lot of the requirements needed for a double-digit seed to upset a higher seed in the NCAA tournament. I think their path is set up nicely too, because I don't trust Texas A&M at all, and I never trust them for any reason. But Yale's a good basketball team too. Yale knocked off an SEC team last year, Bruce Pearl's Auburn. Yale can shoot the three. I mean, there could be a situation where UCSD, if they could get through Michigan, has got Yale in front of them for an opportunity to go to the Sweet 16. And we'll see what tonight is like. I mean, you got a lot of D2 players that have played now at the D1 level for Eric Olin at UCSD. I got to watch them play in person a couple of times, and both times you watch them play, and they play as a unit. They play together. And in this world of NIL and looking out for yourself and everything like that, which again is, I'm not just saying what it is. They went out and got a bunch of players from Division II that are hungry players. A lot of guys enter the transfer portal looking for a paycheck, which is their right. If you have an opportunity to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, you go do it. But these players are the ones that enter the portal at a D2 that were looking for an opportunity to show that they can play at a D1 level. And they got a lot of those guys. And those players have done exceptionally well. And they've been on a tear in the second half of the season in conference play. And they won their 2 games in the Big West tournament. And they haven't really been tested in the last couple of weeks. They shoot the 3 well. They play great defense. They're scrappy. They force turnovers. Those are all the right symptoms to knock off a team like Michigan. I saw Michigan play once this year when they played TCU. TCU's missing their big man, and the 2 7-footers are definitely a problem. But the way that UCSD plays basketball, they can avoid the 7-footers. Now, the rebounding might be an issue if you don't make threes, but UCSD is one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country. So if they could go out there and hit their threes and create turnovers and put the pressure on Michigan, I think good things will happen. I'm curious to see how many fans from UCSD made the trip up to Denver for the first round of the NCAA tournament. And Denver's probably you got to win over the neutral fans. I think Denver is going to be more favored to UCSD. Mark Ziegler weighed out some of the other causes or other things to worry about in the game or other factors in the game. One of them being altitude. UCSD has played at altitude a couple of times. Michigan is not. I don't know if that's going to be that big of a factor. But the way that this team has played this year and the way things are going with this particular group, I don't know. It just has this, team of destiny kind of attitude where, I'm not saying they're going to make a huge run in the NCAA tournament. I think their ceiling is still the Sweet 16 because they ain't beating Auburn. But at the same time, they got a path in front of them that's very favorable. I mean, it's a lot like, and I don't remember the team exactly, but like the situation's a lot like when USD upset UConn the last time they were in the tournament. So I could, and they ended up losing to West Kentucky. It was a 13 seed in the 12-13 matchup. I could see UCSD getting through that first round, and I could see Yale beating A&M, and I could see a situation where we're talking next week about UCSD in the Sweet 16. I think it's possible, but I think that's the ceiling. I don't think it's going to be much more than that. We're going to talk more about UCSD basketball later on in the show to really dive into, this precedent they're setting for mid-majors in college basketball and going back to the basics and keeping a tight-knit group and having those guys that are hungry. I mean, just from experience that I had working for TCU's football team, when TCU had guys that were 3-star athletes that had this chip on their shoulder for getting, not the looks that they were expected to get, they had a lot better teams than when they had the 4- and 5-star kids. Because they had these guys that worked hard and had something to prove. And not every 4 or 5-star doesn't work hard. There's a lot of guys that do. But it's that extra motivation that they get. And right now they're getting it with the Tritons right now. And I think they could go on a run. Now, the question that Adam posed to me off air, and I think it's interesting, and that might be a topic of discussion for tomorrow if UCSD wins, is, is there a world where UCSD catches San Diego State or becomes a more prominent college basketball team in town? I think you got years before you can even have that conversation. I mean, this is just 1 year. This is their first year of Division I eligibility. San Diego State has built this program for the last 20 years and are coming off of a national championship appearance within the last couple of years. So it's going to be hard to get to that level that fast. But I think it's good for San Diego in general. I think it's going to rise the tides for all 3 schools in town. I mean, San Diego State getting to that Final Four, I think raised the bar for UCSD in being D1. Because when they decided that they wanted to be D1 and they don't have football, your main source is basketball. And if you have a team down the road on the Mesa that has gotten to multiple NCAA tournaments, multiple Sweet 16s, has gotten to a Final Four and a national championship, you're signing up to try to compete at that level because you don't want to be the second best team in town. Can't be one of the best teams in college basketball if you're not even the best team in town. And with that bar being raised, I think UCSD is reaching it, and hopefully San Diego USD can raise it, and all of a sudden you got a nice little corner of the college basketball world here in San Diego. Jake Peavy's coming back to the Padres organization. We'll talk to you about that and why it's time to win now for the San Diego Padres in the Braden Surprenant Show. Hour number 2 of the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Got some great games for March Madness already underway. The Louisville-Creighton game is starting to be pretty much over. Creighton's up they're up 73-61, 5 minutes to go. If you picked Creighton, thanks for listening, because I told you to do that yesterday. Oh, there's the High Points. High Points down 43-39. They have their student radio guys are there broadcasting the game, which is super cool. What a great opportunity for them to call an NCAA tournament game. They're showing them on TV. They're getting texts about it. They went viral on a video of them at the Big South Championship. That's a school that's a school that doesn't have a lot of broadcasting at it, but that's super cool that they get to do that. Something that I wish we got to do at TCU. Most of our stuff was behind the scenes, but what a great opportunity for them to go out there and call an NCAA tournament game. I've worked 3 NCAA tournaments now as a reporter, as somebody that's covered, has been a freelance guy for a lot of the schools that can't send people out here to San Diego. And it's just such a blast. I mean, that's probably one of my favorite events to work. There's 2 events that are the best to work that I've experienced, and they're not even like my favorite events in terms of my favorite sports. One of them is March Madness, and the other one is working any event in the PGA Tour, because they take care of you as a media member in the PGA Tour. The media, they give you a media gift. It's just everything about it's awesome. So those are the 2. Again, updates on games. Creighton's up 73-61, under 5 to go. Purdue starting to pull away from High Point a little bit. It's 44-39, but still relatively close with 15-11 to go in the second half. Montana and Wisconsin just tipped off moments ago. Wisconsin is up 27-20 on Montana, and Houston and SIU Edwardsville has just started their brackets out in the Midwest region. So all of those games are underway. We'll keep you updated on those as the morning and afternoon progress. And as Adam Klug said during the break, this is our job today, helping out and informing the great people of San Diego what's going on in March Madness. If you can't watch it, we'll watch it for you and tell you what's going on to help out with your workday. I don't know how productive you guys possibly are today. I know we're trying to be as productive as possible, but these 2 days are some of the best 2 days in college athletics. You know, everybody wants the day after the Super Bowl off as a national holiday. Opening day should be a national holiday. You know what? I want the sports national holiday calendar. Add these 2 days, the next 2 days, to that list. These are the best 2 days of the entire tournament. I mean, Sweet 16 is still kind of fun, but once they start getting to the Elite 8 and my bracket's busted, I just start, aside from having a team in the Final Four a couple of years ago with San Diego State, my interest level in the Final Four is not as high as these first 2 rounds, because it's just so much fun to watch. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We do want to talk some Padres today as well. Obviously, lots going on in Padres land. We are now 7 days away, a week away from opening day. Next week, at this time, we will be at Baja Ricks. We'll be at Baja Ricks, getting excited for Padres baseball, the new season of 2025. Hopefully, by this time, we already have an opening day roster that we could be announcing at Baja Ricks. Hopefully, we got a lineup out by this time, and all you good people out there are pouring into the ballpark and stopping by to say hi with us at Baja Ricks before you go into Petco Park to bring the energy for the San Diego Padres. A week from today, it's opening day. It's going to be great. I can't wait for next week. Tomorrow's going to be fun as well. It's talking about March Madness and the NCAA tournament. Join 97 through the Fan at Dave & Buster's in Mission Valley tomorrow as we broadcast live all day long in celebration of the biggest college hoops tournament of the year. Ben Woods kicks things off at 6 a.m. I will have the show from 10 to 2, and Gwen and Chris at 2 to 6. And then we'll wrap up the day with the Scraby Show at 6 o'clock. There will be breakfast burrito station, drink specials on mimosas, Bloody Marys, and beer throughout the day. Basketball shooting competition, and hourly raffle giveaways. Join us at Dave & Buster's at 2931 Camino del Rio North tomorrow for a full day of fun with your favorite fan talk shows. Do we have the details on what the basketball shooting competition is going to be? Or is Dave & Buster's going to surprise us when we get there?
Don't have the details, but I know they've got those, the Papa shots and stuff like that. So I imagine there'll be some level of high score for the day or something, but don't hold me to it.
They also have the did you hear me the other day when I was talking about the Connect 4 that they have? Have you ever played that? That's fun.
Yes,
Connect
my
4 basketball.
kids played it actually when I took them there last
Yeah,
time.
I didn't get to there was like a line for that game. I want to be able to do that at least tomorrow. It's a fun time. So Dave and Buster's tomorrow. They got a couple things. I gotta see if I could beat my high MPH on the speed pitch without blowing out my UCL tomorrow. I might try that.
What time you getting there? You gotta get there a little early, be there with our audience, hang
No, I'm
out,
gonna
maybe
be out
play
there
some
early, for
video
sure.
games before you go on the air.
I get there early before. Absolutely. Got to
Stick
get
around
locked in
after.
the show.
It'll be
Absolutely.
a fun time. We'll be there all day.
I think I got a couple buddies that might be able to stop by after the show too. So, might be hanging out there for a couple of the games. I was hoping San Diego State would play at 1:00. That would have brought the intensity level up a little bit. But I feel like, you know what I feel like with my family right now with all their schools in the NCAA tournament? I feel like the Squidward meme where I'm sitting there watching Patrick and SpongeBob walk by of all the logos of the schools of my family's teams as my TCU team just watches from afar. High Point's in it, my sister's school. Tennessee plays later today at 3:50. I'm going to have to find a place to watch that before going into Cowboy Star to watch the Vols. Vols have a pretty good chance of making a run in this thing. That's where my brother went. My dad went to San Diego State. They're already eliminated. And then my mom's an Arizona Wildcat. I was an Arizona Wildcat for a semester, so I still, if I had to rank my rooting interest for schools that my family has, Arizona's number 2 behind TCU. So hopefully the Cats can take care of business against Akron. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But we do have some Padres news today when talking about the San Diego Padres, and it has been announced that Jake Peavy will be returning to the Padres organization, which I love. I think it's so cool that Jake Peavy's back. I love how much, even though Jake Peavy went on and won World Series with other teams, even though, it was a different time back then in terms of the ownership, and probably this current ownership would have never let him leave. I love how much he reps the Padres and treats them like his organization. And now he's going to be a full part of that organization with a new gig. He was on with Ben and Woods earlier today, and here's what Jake Peavy had to say about coming back to the San Diego Padres.
It starts with Peter Seidler, Eric Grupner. I remember where I was sitting. I was at work with the network when I got a text from Eric Grupner asking if we could jump on the phone. And he just said, look, Peter's trying to link up with you, and we'd love to just talk with you. And that's where it started. I shortly got on a phone call with Peter, and he just was so welcoming and warming and wanting to bring back in some of the old alumni. I was super appreciative of it. And over the last few years, I've just gotten to know Eric Grupner really well. Tom Seidler has become a great friend and family. And just watching what they've turned San Diego into and then continuing to grow was super exciting for me in that world. And then, like you talked about, anytime that I was out there in engaging with the community and fans, it felt so right. It felt they were super appreciative to have me back around. I felt that. And I felt super gracious and grateful for the welcome home reception, kind of, so to speak. So this ties it all in a bow and just allows me to come engage. I was joking in some manner about being around you guys, but the Padre fans and family are my family, and San Diego is home. So to have reason to be out there more, to tie in with the team who drafted me, gave me my first chance, feels good.
I love that for Jake. I love that for the Padres organization. I love that for the Padres fans. I mean, to have Jake Peavy a part of the organization again. And the Padres need more of those guys. I mean, for a while it was, we haven't had too many of those players, part of the organization, just because those years before this current ownership took over, it was a brand new team almost every year. I'm envious of kids now growing up in San Diego to an extent. I'm envious, but I'm also super excited for them. And we've talked about this before, but I love the big contracts for this particular sense. A lot of people don't like the big contracts because of, it hurts them in terms of adding more additional free agents and what have you. And you're locked into these teams for so long, right? But are these players for so long? But here's one of the benefits and the unspoken benefits of having these long-term deals. You're growing a young fan base in San Diego that is going to be diehard Padre fans because they're going to have the same continuity with the players and the same players that they've, that they're going to go and watch at the ballpark year in and year out as they grow up in San Diego. I've told this story a lot, but growing up in San Diego, a lot of my friends weren't necessarily that into the Padres because, first of all, they weren't very good. Aside from, when they went to the World Series in 98, I was 3 years old. And then 05, 06, 07 range was solid. And they won a couple of division titles. They just missed the playoffs in 07. Holiday never touched home plate, although they never tagged him out either. So take that for what it's worth. And then after that, it was one season. From 07 through basically the new ownership. There was one season they were really good. And I was in high school. And it was 2010. They were good in 2010. They won 90 games. Tony Gwynn Jr. was on the team. And that was it. I mean, other than that, they were one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball almost every single year. And you would be like, you'd go to be excited for the season to an extent. And then you'd be like, all right, time for the Chargers to play. And it was really a Charger town. And I remember, going to, and I went to Catholic school. I grew up in a Catholic family, and I was always going to go to Catholic school. My mom went to Catholic school, and you have to wear a uniform. But to help out the kids and let them be kids a lot, you would have different theme days. I mean, I remember like on Mardi Gras, they'd have a Mardi Gras day, and I remember they'd have jeans day where you could wear jeans to school with like a school shirt, and then they'd have all these different things, and then during Catholic Schools Week they'd have a bunch of different ones, but every once in a while they'd have Jersey Day, which was cool. You got to see everybody's jersey and stuff like that. I'm going to say right now, I don't think anybody ever wore a Padres jersey growing up to Jersey Day, and the only time they did is if it was their Little League team's jersey because they didn't have any other jerseys. That would be it. No Padres jerseys growing up. I mean, hardly ever. Not only weren't very good, but none of the players stayed on the team. They'd have a brand new roster all the time. I remember I used to get asked all the time as a kid, because every time when you see kids wearing Padres stuff, who's your favorite player? I didn't have one for the longest time. It'd be a brand new team every year. And after a certain point, I played second base growing up, so like Mark Loretta was my favorite player for a while. As a kid, like young, when he was still playing, Tony Gwynn was my favorite player. I mean, I hit lefty. I don't even know if I might hit lefty just because I would watch Tony all the time. I throw right-handed. I loved everything about Tony Gwynn. I have everything Tony Gwynn. I have it all. I have bats. I have baseballs. I have his Wheaties box. I have bobbleheads. I mean, anything that's Tony Gwynn, I got it. My favorite player as a kid. Say it all the time. I remember, waiting in line at El Cajon Ford to get an autograph and a photo with Tony when I was like 3 or 4 years old. So it came to a point when you're growing up, it's like you had to have a favorite player on the current team. I would just be like, my all-time favorite player is Tony Gwynn. I remember my dad said, why don't you just say Tony Gwynn? I said, well, he's not on the team anymore. And my dad's like, well, you could say all-time great. Just say that. And that was my answer. For the entire childhood through high school, it was Tony Gwynn. Why? Because we had a brand new team every year. And now kids in San Diego, they get the same team their entire childhood. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's how you grow a fan base. That's great. That's so great. See kids wearing Tatis jerseys all the time and Manny Machado jerseys, Joe Musgrove jerseys. Joe Musgrove wears 44 because, Jake Peavy. It's great that he's back in the organization. But when you look at all the players under contract for a long time, it's more than just, winning games on the field. And they've done that. I mean, they've made the playoffs 3 out of the last 5 years. As much as we want it to be more consistent, And I know they want it to be more consistent where they can actually go to the playoffs in back-to-back seasons for the first time since 05-06. There's more to the roster than that. And that's growing a fan base. That's getting people excited for the Padres. That's getting kids excited for the Padres. I coach football at Cathedral now. And, every once in a while, they'll do the same thing. They'll do like a jersey day or whatever. Their ASB will put it together so they don't have to wear the uniform every single day. And when I walk onto campus for practice, I'm usually getting there when students are leaving, when class gets out of session. And when I walk on campus on those days, it's almost all Padres jerseys. I mean, what a drastic difference from when I was growing up. So for all of that time that the Padres, they had no players they could really, go to be those spokesperson of the organization, right? Tony Gwynn, passed away and left this planet too soon. Randy Jones is and he's a phenomenal human being. Doing pregame shows with Randy Jones is such a blessing when I got to do that and just get to know Randy Jones as a person. But he's from an era that a lot of people that didn't even get to see him play. And now you got Trevor Hoffman, which is great, trying to be that guy. But that's basically it. And so now bringing in Jake Peavy, I think that's awesome. And I think this core of players for the Padres that are under contract for a long time, hopefully they can accomplish the ultimate goal. But this is part of growing as an organization. And you're going to have some of these guys currently that will be back and be those spokesperson for the organization. And I can't wait to see it. And it starts with Jake Peavy. I love the move by the Padres. Incorporating these guys in any way possible is awesome. Keeping the alumni involved of the San Diego Padres. I mean, having more guys out there that love the Padres organization. That's what I love about this move. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Crazy, or should more teams do this? Angels have a new rule. I'm gonna tell you why I don't think it's that bad. We'll tell you what the new rule is when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 11:23 on a Thursday. Braden Surprenant Show. Thanks again for joining us today. Celebrating the big 3-0 today. 30 years old. My buddy Johnny who's in the chat says, once you get to 30, your body's just going to hurt all the time. Thumbs up from Adam. So can't wait for that. That's why I'm trying to stay in shape this year in 2025 because I knew the 3-0 was coming and I want to be able to play as many softball games as possible. Played Johnny's team last night and Johnny wasn't there because old-ass Johnny has a bad elbow because he's getting too old. Come on, Johnny. His team was even saying, like, I don't know where he's at. He keeps playing on the weekend teams. He doesn't play for our team anymore because he says he's hurt. He is hurt. Johnny's banged up. Johnny, take a shot of whiskey and get right before the game and let's get going. Let's make the pain go away a little bit. Get you out there playing softball again. I miss Johnny on Wednesday night softball. And if he was there, I probably would have got more hits because I usually hit it to the spot that he's at, and he's not that great of a fielder, so I'd be able to get my hits in. Just kidding. We did beat his team last night in softball. Played at 10 o'clock at night. I don't know why I do that still. It's just not fun. I mean, it's fun playing softball, but the 10 o'clock games are ridiculous. Ridiculous. Angels have a new rule. Adam sent me this last night. I think it's interesting. Honestly, I almost want to implement this rule myself at Cathedral for football. But this is from Brittany Garoli, who's a great writer for The Athletic, about the Angels' new clubhouse rule. Anyone waiting on a text or a call from the Angels might have to wait longer than usual this season. The team has banned cell phones this spring in the clubhouse, a rule Angels manager Ron Washington said on Wednesday he hopes allows his team to focus more on baseball. There has been no pushback, according to Washington, but there have been important tweaks to make the rules, make sure the rules are observed. I think there's going to be a fine now for Angels players if they use their phone in the clubhouse. And here's the quote from Ron Washington. Now, the rules have extended to the outside of the clubhouse. Right now, they are in the hallways. Now that's going to be completely out of the clubhouse. It is not a punishment. I just want some focus. Rules will be the same during the regular season, Washington said. The baseball veteran had the same rule when he managed the Texas Rangers from 2007 to 2014. He went to 2 World Series. During that time, Rangers veterans Michael Young, Adrian Beltre, and Ian Kinsler enforced the policy, which came with a $500 fine for anyone caught breaking the rules. Mike Trout, Kyle Hendricks will be responsible for making sure Angels team abides. They will set the fine amount, which might be subject to some inflation from the Rangers fines. Washington said $500 was his suggestion, but he doesn't care what the amount is as long as it's enough to dissuade players from using them. Trout and Hendricks met with Washington this spring about the policy and both were on board. Quote, that clubhouse is for the veterans on this team to run it the way they want to run it. We just dropped what we would like to have happen, and we want to make certain it happens inside the clubhouse. Players spend a good portion of their pregame in the clubhouse, so taking away phone distractions can lead to more organic conversations and forge relationships, which Washington thinks is an important byproduct of keeping tech out of that space. I love it. At the same time, I see the other side too. I mean, here's the dilemma. One, they're professional, paid adults. They should be able to have conversations with each other without having a cell phone involved. They should be able to bond with each other without having cell phones involved. And they should not be distracted because they're paid professionals. So the idea of the cell phones being the main reason why they're not focused on the game, I think is a little bit of a reach. But at the same time, I do think it's a good practice. I just think for society in general, the practice of constantly not doing this is beneficial. And I'm guilty of it too all the time. I remember back to the winter meetings a couple of years ago that we hosted here in San Diego when we're broadcasting live at the winter meetings. It's a fun 4 days. And at these winter meetings, there's always these job fairs. And the job fairs to try to get a job at Major League Baseball. There's a lot of, young people that are trying to get into broadcasting or working for a Major League Baseball team. They all show up in their suits. They got their resumes, everything like that. And I remember I saw two kids show up in suits, and their whole thing was they had to intermingle and try to they're trying to get the jobs out there. But their biggest problem, as I observed, they just sat in the corner on their phones waiting for somebody to just go up and hand them the job that they wanted, their dream job. It doesn't work like that, especially in this business. In this business, you have to develop relationships. You have to talk to people. You have to be willing to come out of your shell. And I think a lot of us now, especially in the younger generations, which is what the players are. I turned 30 today, and with everything we say about players in their 30s, I'd almost be like a up out of his prime player right now. And so we're talking about people younger than me that are in Major League Baseball that don't know how to handle, talking with other people and engaging and having that camaraderie of everything because you're distracted by your phone. It's going to be even more prevalent now than it was back when Ron Washington was with the Texas Rangers. I see it with the players that I coach all the time. We do a lot of team building things at Cathedral. We do a lot of team meals. We do a lot of, gatherings of certain kinds. And every time it's just every kid's just on their phone. And there's silence at the tables. So I don't mind the move. I think it's okay. It shouldn't have to be done for guys that are paid adults to play baseball. But I don't mind the rule for Ron Washington and the Angels. Now, do I think this is going to flip the fact that they were 63 and 99 last year and haven't made the postseason since 2014? No. But I do think it's a step in the right direction for those guys. I don't mind that. I don't mind it. I think the Padres clubhouse is a little bit different now than it was a couple of years ago when I was, going down there all the time. Before, those guys wouldn't hang out with each other ever. They were in, they play, they go home. That was about it. This team's a little bit more of a tighter-knit group. We talked about that on Monday when they went to the San Diego FC game together. The Padres don't have to implement this particular deal because they have that camaraderie. They've been there before. They're together. The Angels are trying to build something up there in Anaheim, which they haven't been able to do since 2014, and they got a lot of their own problems. Their roster stinks, and their contract obligations are not good, and all this other stuff. They got their own problems, but I don't mind it. They're trying up there, and maybe that's what they need to get some use out of the young guys as they try to build a team. It's definitely important with team building. So I don't mind the rule. I don't think the Padres need to implement that rule. I think it'd be great for high school, maybe even college, to get the phones out of there. But Ron Washington, I'm sure it sparked a little bit of controversy, but it seemed like the players are up for it. If the players are up for it too, by all means, there should be no reason to really, have a fit about that. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973 is our number. We're rolling on here on the Braden Surprenant Show. If you haven't done so already on the YouTube page, give us a like. It really helps out the algorithm. You can follow me on social media at @B_SURP, at BSURP on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We got content posting 3 times a day on all 3 of those particular platforms. Be sure to subscribe to us on our podcast as well. If you missed anything, go on the rewind function of the Odyssey app. You could also download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We really appreciate it. Different tiers of contending teams for the 2025 season. How is that going to shake out this season in Major League Baseball? We'll talk about that, plus get you updated on the first couple of games here in March Madness on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Braden Surprenant Show on a opening day of the NCAA tournament, March 20th and 21st. These first 2 days of the NCAA tournament, always a fun couple of days. We got you updated on some of the scores in college basketball today. We've already had one particular game go final as Creighton. I got to get the final score for you. Creighton handled Louisville today, 89-75. So the 9-seed Creighton Jays moving on to take on the winner of Auburn and Alabama State. That game will tip off at 11:50 p.m. or a.m. Pacific time on CBS. Other games that are currently in action: Purdue is up on High Point, 67-58. That's under 3 minutes to go. High Point still hanging on, and keeping it close. But Purdue looking to close this thing out. Wisconsin and Montana, 17-13 to go in the second half. Wisconsin has a 46-38 lead on Montana, and then Houston up 42-20 early in the first half with 3:50 to go in the first half in the Midwest region over SIU Edwardsville. So Houston cruising in their 1-16 matchup. Games that are about to start up next: Alabama State versus Auburn in the South region, and McNeese State playing Clemson in the Midwest region. Those games will start at 11:50 and 12:15 Pacific time. If you want to join the show today, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Get out to your phone calls. You want to talk March Madness with us? By all means. UCSD basketball with a big game tonight at 7 o'clock against Michigan and their first ever NCAA tournament game. Plus, we got some Padres stuff that we want to dive into as well. Let's get out to the phones. Get out to Ocean Beach where Zach is standing by. Zach, what's going on, man? How's your Thursday?
Doing really good. How are you? Congratulations on the show.
I appreciate that, man. I'm doing well.
So I just had a question and wanted to get your thoughts on the Juan Soto trade. I know Fernando was injured that year, but just looking at the depth to our roster, I just wanted to know if you feel that that we shouldn't have made that trade, or if you could go back, would you have not made it in order to keep people like Woods and Hassel the Third and Mackenzie Gore and a few others?
I wouldn't change anything. I mean, at that point in time, you knew, you thought Fernando was coming back. I think you were in a position to win. I mean, during the open that I have for the show, I mentioned you can't punt on a Manny Machado prime here. I mean, for every year in the next, couple of years, in the last couple of years with Manny Machado, you got to be able to go out. You got to go after it. You got to be able to go after it and bring in talent because this is your window to win. You don't want to be spending, $35-40 million on some of these guys later on and not have that ability to win because you are, worried about not making that big, bold move. And that's what A.J. Preller likes to do. I don't think the C.J. Abrams deal is going to hurt them too much. I think Wood might in the future. But again, you got to evaluate it whether or not he's going to turn into that elite level player that could have been the Juan Soto for years to come instead of just having Juan Soto for a couple of years. That's how you have to really evaluate that. So it will remain to be seen and move forward. I mean, we'll see what the Nationals got with a lot of those Padres players, but I think they recuperated some of the talent when they traded Juan Soto to the Yankees. I mean, if it wasn't for Juan Soto, you wouldn't have, Michael King right now, who's obviously one of the better pitchers for the San Diego Padres. So I wouldn't change too much, Zach. I think it's at the time it was a good trade. I still don't mind the trade. I think a lot of people like to just crush trades after the fact when it didn't work out. But I was taught this at a young age. In my early coaching career, it's all fun and games when you're doing it. And you criticize from afar, but until your product's on the field, it's really tough to evaluate and think of things in hindsight. Of what you would have done when you were in that situation. So, Zach, I appreciate the phone call. Have a good rest of your day.
Rock and roll.
I mean, a Soto deal, I think people are going to ask about that a lot. I mean, but I don't think it's really that big of a deal. I don't think it's something that is catastrophically bad for the organization. The thing is in order to acquire good players, you also have to give up good players. It's not like MLB The Show. In MLB The Show, you could finagle a lot of different things and move guys around and and make trades that are unrealistic. And in Major League Baseball, you got to give up something to get something in return. And so that's just something that comes with it. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And that's with all trades. I mean, I bet you the White Sox probably wish that they never traded Fernando Tatis Jr., for James Shields. But at the time, it made sense. They were out there competing. So that's the way you got to look at it sometimes. You got to talk about it in the moment. When the Padres make a move this year, and they will make a move, I gotta get the take right then and there about whether or not you liked it or not. You can't wait for things to play out and then grade things hindsight 2020. Our hindsight's 2020. You can't grade it later on when you got to see the full picture. So that's how I stand on the Soto deal. You got to move on to the next particular move. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Andre in San Diego. Andre, what's going on, man?
How's it going? Just was calling to wish you a happy birthday and congratulations on the show.
Well, I appreciate that, man. What do you got going on today?
Construction work.
Nice. Grinding it out. Hopefully it doesn't get too hot out there for you. You tune into March Madness when you're done? Basketball guy or no?
I'm going to. I'm waiting for the Duke game tomorrow, but
all right. Sounds good. Well, keep working the hard work out there. We appreciate you putting in the work to help our city be better in every sort of aspect. You guys are the ones putting in the real effort out there. We really appreciate it. Thanks for the birthday wish.
Hey, thank you, and go Padres.
Go Padres, Andre. Have a good rest of your day. This guy's working construction, man. They put a lot of hard time out there. Good solid work for our communities. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Kevin in Chula Vista on the Braden Surprenant Show. Kevin, what's going on?
Hey, Braden, along with the chorus of other folks, just wanted to call in to wish you a happy birthday. Many, many more coming. Having been there one time in my life that I wish I could remember at 30 years old, you're going to be okay. I played basketball. I was a gym rat to 32, and then the arthritis and tendonitis set in. We had bone on bone. After that, I graduated to 33 straight seasons of softball.
There you go.
Right up until 40. Yeah, right up until about 48. And you know what the difference is at that point, Braden? It's the eyes. And you're playing at nighttime, and I hated it like you do. And the late games and the cold. And then you have, and I managed all 33 of those seasons. So you can imagine what it's like trying to herd together a bunch of
I used to do that, Kevin. I used to do that when I was in high school and college, and trying to get college-age kids home from summer break to one, play, and two, pay their dues when they'd rather be going to PB on the weeknights is a very difficult task. So I totally understand where you're coming from. That's why I don't manage teams anymore, Kevin. That's why I'm like, free agent, pick me up. You guys can deal with it.
Absolutely. It's like babysitting grown men who I don't understand how they can pay their bills and walk and chew gum at the same time, because they could never remember when your game time was. And it's like you're constantly having to call them. And it's the rainouts and everything else. And you know how the drill goes playing softball. And then the other thing that changed probably before you started playing was when they went to magnesium or titanium bats, I should say. And then, you could take someone that's 5'3", and all of a sudden they're hitting home runs over everybody's heads. So softball became much more of a football offensive game. And a lot of the defense just went right out. So I exited when I was 48, 49 years old. So you got a long way to go, my friend. And just keep on keeping on and have fun at what you do. And that's the name of the game. As long as you're having fun and enjoying it, then keep doing it. If not, then go find something else. There's plenty of other great things to do too. So congrats again. Keep it up, and bless your heart.
Well, I appreciate that, Kevin, very much. Thanks again for calling in and giving us your takes all the time, and appreciate the kind words. The bats out there are hot sometimes. My buddy Johnny in the chat pointed me into the way of the new Tantrum. That thing's super hot. Super hot. But appreciate all the birthday wishes, guys, in the chat. My phone obviously blowing up with a lot. I really appreciate the love, guys. It's really awesome. Again, Today should be celebrating my parents a little bit more just because of what they went through on the day I was born. I mentioned that earlier in the show. The blood bank saving my life. And so if you ever have an opportunity to donate blood, please do so, because it does help a lot of people. Jocelyn in the chat mentioned that Sage Creek has a blood drive going on today. So if you have the opportunity to donate, please, and you're in the Carlsbad area, please go ahead and stop by. It's open blood drive at Sage Creek High School today, according to Jocelyn in the chat. Really appreciate all of you guys out there. What do we got? Did you put something on the YouTube chat? Oh, sports thread. It's time for the sports thread.
You know that group chat? The one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
All right. Getting started with the sports thread today. Let's kick it off. Number 1.
Number 1.
For those living under a rock, the NCAA tournament is officially underway, and number 1 seed Duke will have the best player in the country available for action. Cooper Flagg missed most of the ACC tournament with an ankle injury, but says he's now pain-free. How far do you have the Dukies going in your bracket?
Well, I make 2 brackets.
All right, here we go.
But in my main bracket that I have put out, so one of the pool I'm in is Montali Madness. And in that pool, you can have 2 brackets. So I put in 2 brackets. And so I put in my 1 bracket, and then for that one, I put in a second. But for all the other things that I put in, including the Scraby Show one, the Scrabinators bracket pool, I have Duke winning it all.
So you kind of think they're going to win it all.
I think they're going to win it all. I
think
think the best player on the best team, it's hard to go against that. But I was on the fence last night between them and Florida. I think that's going to be the national championship. I think you're going to see a lot of chalk potentially this year, and we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I'm open for chaos. I love chaos. I will root for that over my bracket, even though I fill out brackets. I know it's a big reason why you don't fill out a bracket. I will root for chaos instead of brackets.
I really don't like that you have multiple different picks.
I only have 2
brackets.
It's only 2, and most of the picks are relatively the same. There's a couple coin flips.
Number 2.
Earlier this week, one of the Orioles' top prospects, Kobe Mayo, was optioned to AAA to begin the season and publicly shared his displeasure with the move, saying, quote, "It definitely is difficult. It obviously sucks because you feel like you've proven everything you've needed to. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it's quite enough. Obviously, you go back there, and if you have success, it's, oh, he's supposed to have success because he's already proven it. And if he doesn't have success, it's, oh, well, he's obviously fallen off. It's kind of a lose-lose going to Norfolk, which is where the Orioles AAA is. These comments drew a lot of criticism, and yesterday Mayo clarified his comments, saying, quote, "The comments I made yesterday to the media after being optioned were by no means directed to the Orioles organization or the Norfolk Tides. I will be the first to tell you I didn't do enough this spring break to break camp with the big, not spring break, this spring to break camp with the big league team. I was frustrated in the moment and things were taken out of context. As a competitor, this has lit a fire in me, and I will make sure I work even harder to get back to the big leagues and help the team win games as soon as possible. I will never settle for anything less than the best version of myself." 2-part question, Braden. Do you have an issue with Mayo's original comments? And now, how do you feel after hearing what he said yesterday?
I don't have an issue with the original comments because that's probably the exact thing he was thinking, right? I mean, these guys are. That's why they have the 24-hour rule on a lot of different things. Now, does he have to try to flush it early and think a little bit better about what he's going to say to the media? Yes, and I think that's going to come with experience. But I trust. I accept both of the comments, honestly. I mean, you got the emotional one for him being upset he didn't make the big league club, and then you had the more level-headed one once cooler heads prevailed. So I'm okay with both of it. It's probably a mistake, but I think he's going to learn from this experience.
Number 3.
Indiana introduced their new head coach, Deion DeVries, yesterday, whom they hired after coaching 1 year at West Virginia. He was at Drake University before that. As you know, Braden, there's lots of shady stuff in college sports in terms of players and coaches changing schools. And DeVries acknowledged in his introductory press conference yesterday that he had a deal in place with Indiana during the season.
Yeah, and obviously the process, is the process on how it plays out. And, as you're going through their season, they were, very respectful of making sure that my focus continued to be on our team and certainly appreciated that.
I'm sorry? I'm sorry? Did you just say what I thought he just said?
Do we want to hear it again?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and obviously the process, is the process on how it plays out. And, as you're going through their season, they were, very respectful of making sure that my focus continued to be on our team and certainly appreciated that.
Well, maybe with those rumors with Eric Olin going to Indiana, they contacted Eric Olin in the process.
So while this was a little shady, this isn't all that rare. But what's gotten college hoops fans in an uproar has to do with DeVries' son, Tucker, who played for his father at Drake University, then followed his dad to West Virginia with 1 year of eligibility remaining. Tucker suffered a season-ending injury after just 8 games and retained enough eligibility to redshirt and play another year. He hasn't committed to Indiana yet, but he has entered the transfer portal, and one has to assume he's going to be going to Bloomington. Many Mountaineer fans think the injury may not have been that serious, but that he wanted to follow his dad to Indiana. Pretty high-profile program.
Right.
Do you subscribe to this conspiracy
I don't
theory?
think it's a conspiracy. I think he probably was actually hurt. I don't want to buy into that. I don't think he's taking the Indiana job just for his son to be able to play at Indiana. I think that's just insane levels.
I'm not saying that. Just the fact that maybe his
but
injury wasn't that serious.
and just so he could play again, like another year. I mean, I just, that's not even good enough for a conspiracy. I think from these people. It's been a tough week for West Virginia. It's been a very tough week for West Virginia. It's good people over there in the Mountaineer country, but the guys left twice now in 2 years to 2 different schools with Indy, and I don't know why you'd want to jump on a sinking ship that is Indiana. So we'll see what happens with the Hoosiers. But I thought that was weird when I was breaking down the brackets and they talked about him with Drake last year. I'm like, wait a minute, isn't he at West Virginia? Isn't he just got one and done for DeVries? How about that? Lots to get to still on the Braden Surprenant Show. We're going to keep you caught up on March Madness, what to watch for today. Plus, John Heyman talks about the Padres' plan in the next hour on the Braden Surprenant Show. Noon hour on a March Madness Thursday, opening round of the NCAA tournament, first round of the NCAA tournament. Always an exciting time. UCSD will play at 7 o'clock tonight against Michigan. Should be a good one. We'll have a full breakdown of UCSD and, what they're doing to really set the precedent for mid-major programs. Coming from D2 and some of the recruitment that they've had to do to get to this level. And they've done a really good job. We'll have that full preview coming up later on in the show. I do want to mention, if you haven't done so already on the YouTube, be sure to give us a like. It really helps out with the show. Give us a like on the YouTube page. We got 22 likes right now. Try to add a little bit more. Helps boost the page out there. Try to increase our subscribers and get more people interested in 97.3 The Fan, especially with the Padres season coming up. We're going to have tons of Padres content on the show throughout the year. We're going to have more stuff on the website, on 97.3 The Fans YouTube page. Really trying to push as much Padres content out there to you as possible. You can follow me on social media at @B_SURP, at BSURP. We will have 3 clips a day coming out on all of my accounts, that are going to be mostly Padres related, but keep the social aspect of it and give me a follow. Really appreciate that as we continue to get this show off the ground and continue to roll here on 97.3 The Fan. 2 hours in, 2 hours to go, as I'm sure your productivity level at work is starting to fall a little bit with NCAA tournament going on, and it's lunchtime now, but we'll keep you updated on what's going on in the NCAA tournament. Starting right now, games that have already gone final. Creighton has knocked off Louisville in the 9-8 matchup in the South region. A win 89-75 for the Creighton Jays. They will play the winner of the other game that is about to start or just got underway in Auburn and Alabama State. Auburn is up 6-5 on Alabama State early before the under-16 timeout. Auburn should be able to cruise over Alabama State in that particular game. We'll keep you updated as the game continues. Other games that have gone final in the Midwest region, the Purdue Boilermakers in Providence, Rhode Island, have knocked off High Point 75-63. Very valiant effort out of High Point. They got outscored by 10 points in the first half, but then kept it within 2 in the second half. At one point, they're only down 3 points. Late in the game, Purdue kind of took over to finish that one off, and Purdue advances in the NCAA tournament. We got 3 games currently active, and then we have 1 game that's about to start. Montana and Wisconsin, 9:17 to go in the second half. Wisconsin's up 68-54 in the East region in the first round. Wisconsin obviously expected to win that particular game, so they're up 68-54. At halftime, Houston all over SIU Edwardsville, 52-24. Houston, a very, very much a favorite pick to make the Final Four coming out of the Midwest region, or a potential matchup with Tennessee in the Elite Eight for a chance to go to San Antonio for the Final Four. And then the other game that's in action, as we mentioned before, Auburn's up on Alabama State 12-5. As they will continue the South region play. Games coming up next in our morning slate. They break this thing into 2 different slates. They have the early games and then the late games. There's 3 games left to tip as part of the early slate. McNeese and Clemson will tip off at 12:29 on True TV in the first round of the NCAA tournament in the Midwest region. Clemson is favored by 7.5 against McNeese. There's familiarity there with McNeese's head coach and the Clemson Tigers. That game will be in Providence, Rhode Island. VCU-BYU should be a good first-round game between a 6 seed and an 11 seed. That game will start at 1:05 on TNT. BYU's favored by 2.5 in this game at Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado. Georgia, Adam Klug's Georgia Bulldogs will be taking on the Gonzaga Bulldogs at 1:35 on TBS. Gonzaga's favored by 7.5. They play at Intrust Bank Arena in Wichita, Kansas.
I guarantee the Bulldogs will win.
There you go. You heard it here first. I wish I had a soundboard still. You'd get a foul for that. That's a foul. A dad joke foul for Adam Klug.
But lots of dad jokes, I'll tell you what.
You are a dad, so it makes it checks out. You're allowed to do it now. If you don't have, there's a certain age limit where you could pass for the dad jokes, and then there's also, if you have kids, you could pass for the dad jokes. But and other than that, you're getting a foul. Georgia and Gonzaga will be the final game.
He draws the foul.
There you go. There's the foul. Thanks, Chevy Chase from Fletch. Gonzaga's favored by 7.5 against Georgia. I know you're not a big college basketball fan. When was the last time you watched did you watch the Georgia Bulldogs at all this year in college basketball?
No.
No, of course not.
I was generally aware that they had a good season. I think they knocked off Florida in a real big win.
I mean, they're 20-12. They played in arguably the best conference in college basketball.
And they're a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Are they better?
No, I didn't watch any of them.
Is the SEC better in college basketball this year than they are in football?
Braden, it just means more.
It just means
more. I made
there.
that comment to you the other day. Would they have like 14 teams make the NCAA tournament?
Yeah.
I thought it was actually a down year in football. So sure.
It was kind of a down year.
So sure, better in basketball this year than football. I mean, look, it's a basketball conference.
That's why they play in Nashville. Great time. They were pretty good this year. But that's because Big 12 was down. I didn't realize McNeese State's got a manager that's got an NIL deal. Amir Khan. I didn't know that. That's a social media thing that just flashed on the TV. They were asking him about stuff earlier. They had him fill out a bracket. They're like, and March Madness's Twitter account, they like to put out celebrities brackets, and that guy popped up. And I'm like, who's this guy? And since I'm ancient at 30 years old and I don't follow the TikTok trends, I'm like, it's probably some young thing that I don't really know about because I don't have time to keep up on some of those things. But Amir Khan, I guess, has a NIL deal. That's pretty cool. Good for him. McNeese and Clemson will start at 12:29 as mentioned. That's the morning slate. Afternoon slate. I'm glad Clay in the South Bay on the YouTube chat got the Fletch reference. Yes, that's where we take it from. He draws the foul. Goes to the free throw line, hits it. It's a great movie if you've never seen it. Fletch. Blast from the past. Afternoon slate. Arkansas and Kansas. Arkansas versus your Kansas at 4:10 on CBS. That's going to be from Providence, Rhode Island. Two legendary coaches dueling it out. Bill Self and Coach Cal. Should be a good contest. Winner gets to play probably Rick Pitino in St. John's. Kansas is really they're down. They're so down this year. I mean, I watched play a couple of times. Being a Big 12 fan, they're not the same level that they have been in the last couple of years. And the funny thing on social media is like, what has happened to Kansas? And somebody claimed other teams get to pay players now. They're not the only team doing it. All of a sudden, it's leveled the playing field for them a little bit. I like Arkansas in that game, even though Kansas is favored by 5.5. Yale and Texas A&M. Can't trust Texas A&M, not in big games. Yale's sneaky. Be afraid of Yale. That game will start at 4:25 on TBS in Denver, Colorado at Ball Arena. A&M's favored by 7.5. Drake, Missouri should be a pretty good game. Missouri near the top half of the SEC, where it just means more. And they're favored by 6.5 against Drake. But Drake and UCSD, very similar. Both have 30 wins. Both have a lot of D2 veteran players. Older players, but from Division II. They might be a sneaky pick against Missouri today. Utah State, UCLA, that's at 6:25 on TNT. I like the Aggies in that one, although I do like Mick Cronin, even though he likes to pop off in his press conferences. We'll see how UCLA does after they've seen the Statue of Liberty 3 times this year in conference games. It was such a great, great quote from one of his press conferences after the loss. We've already seen the Statue of Liberty 3 times this year, trying to fly coast to coast to play conference games against Rutgers and Maryland. Omaha St. John's will be at 6:45 on CBS. That's from Providence, Rhode Island. UC San Diego, Michigan at 7 o'clock on TBS. Michigan favored by 2.5 in that game. 30-4 Tritons. I'd like to see the Tritons be able to get a W. We'll see how they do against the Michigan Wolverines. They got two gigantic human beings in the middle there for Michigan. 2 7-footers. Tallest player for UC San Diego is 6'8". I mean, they got nobody over the size of 6'8", but they can shoot threes, they force turnovers, and Michigan's sloppy with the basketball. I think they got a good shot. Here's where UCSD went a little too far, though. UCSD went a little too far on campus this week. I mean, come on, man. I get it. I understand. But like, I don't think it's going to be bulletin board material for Michigan. I don't think Michigan really cares. But I saw it, and like some people in San Diego were like, "Oh, this is cool." I don't think so. What did UCSD do on campus that I thought was a little cringe? We'll tell you about it when we come back. Plus, what John Heyman said about the Padres plan. Braden Surprenant Show, standing as #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 12:17 on a Thursday. Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Updates for you in college basketball. Auburn up on Alabama State, 18-8 under the 16 timeout. Wisconsin up on Montana, under 5 to go, 74-62, as Wisconsin is starting to pull away, although they have had a scoring drought in the last 5 minutes of play, but I don't think that's going to be a major factor for Montana as this one starts to wind down. Houston up on SIU Edwardsville, 58-30 in the second half, as that second half is about to get underway, or just got underway after halftime. McNeese State and Clemson will get underway momentarily coming up. And then other games, as I mentioned before, after that, to finish off the early slate, VCU and BYU from Denver, Colorado at 105. Georgia, Gonzaga, the Battle of the Bulldog at 135. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. I'm going to talk about what UCSD did around campus. I mean, I understand what they're trying to accomplish, but I think it's a little much. Some people in town thought it was cool. I'm not one of those people. I think it's kind of much. I'll talk about that in a second. But first, I want to get out to the phone calls. Let's get out to East County and Lakeside. RJ, joining the Braden Surprenant Show. RJ, what's going on? How's your Thursday?
It's going great, Braden. Hope you're doing well. Hope everyone's doing well. And again, just real quick, some comments and then a question. Love that you're doing your own show. I've always liked your vibe. I do miss your former colleagues. I thought they were great too. And it's the business. I get it, but I enjoyed them as well. But I'm glad that you're at the helm. Love your style. Always have. Also, real quick, I'm excited about the basketball teams that are in the tournament. I'm hoping that the UC San Diego's programs, both men's and women's, can start to take off. My question to you is, say it this way, does UCSD have the goods to continue to grow like SDSU started doing several years ago?
That's a good question. And RJ, I appreciate the phone call and obviously the nice words for me and colleagues. But, the UCSD, I think they do in the sense that they have made a pledge to put money in the athletic program. And, I was told from people I know around that have been involved at the school and everything like that about the amount of money that they're putting into the athletic program at UCSD. And the thing is, it's one thing to just as a student body and as a collective vote to be a D1 school. It's another thing to actually go, well, if we're going to be at this level, we want to be able to compete at this level. And with doing so, now they are state schools, so they get a lot of good fun. They get some good funding. They're putting a lot of money every year for the next couple of years into the athletic department to make themselves a D1 caliber school. So from that perspective, that's half the battle. And that's half the battle for a lot of programs. And I'm talking college and I'm talking high school. When you talk about athletic programs that involve academic institutions, if you don't have the support from the academic side of the school, you will never be successful at sports. Never. You have to have the support from the academic side. They have to understand the importance of sport. And if they don't, you will never be successful. That's the same thing at the high school level when it comes to, and a lot of young guys, and I can relate to it with high school football. A lot of young coaches that are looking for opportunities to be a head coach. One of the biggest pieces of advice, and I'm not one of those guys. I mean, I like coaching football. I enjoy coaching football. It's a passion of mine. I love that I'm able to do both right now. At some point in my career, I'm going to have to stop doing, coaching football, but right now I'm able to do so. I'm not interested in being a head coach anytime soon at the high school level. It's a lot of work. It's, you got to deal with parents, you got to deal with administrators, it's less coaching and more general manager level. And I'm talking at the high school level. But one of the best pieces of advice that I've seen by Chris Ford, who helps coaches find jobs in California for high school coaching is don't ever sign up at a place that doesn't give you the support you need to succeed and doesn't want to have the football program succeed. And that's a major factor in all of these conversations. Start looking around at the schools in college athletics. The ones that are good get support from the academic side of the school. The ones that aren't, they don't see the value in it. And it's difficult with schools. Like schools and people that work at schools and are like part of the academia world, they live in a completely separate world than a lot of other people, than most of us that aren't in that life. And the athletic departments are kind of the hybrids between it, but like the schools are totally different. And so when you have the support from the academic side of the school, you are set up for success because they understand the value of sport. You get the proper funding you need. There's not a lot of red tape, right? They're not preventing you from doing the things that you need to do in order to accomplish winning. Now, I will say this. Every school is built like this. Football. Academics and athletics are two separate entities at schools underneath the same umbrella that is the school. And sometimes the athletic department has to pump money back to the academic side, and sometimes the academic side has to fund the athletics. But unless they're on the same page, it's not going to work. And so for UCSD, they're on the same page. It seems like right now they're on the same page. And the money's going in, and they have the support, and they understand the sports. I mean, Earl Edwards, as the athletic director, understands that brand recognition. He understands the importance of the television that they run over there for ESPN Plus. They understand the importance of what sports does to lead kids to go to your school. You know, I always bring up TCU because it's a familiar place for me. I understand. I went there. I know what goes on at the school. When they went to the Rose Bowl with Andy Dalton, their applicants from California shot through the roof. And football led it for him, and sports led it for him. And they understood that this was an avenue to help grow our school and to be a better school. And Victor Boschini, who is the chancellor of TCU, who is now going to be retired at the end of the year, and they'll have a new, he fully embraced this, and they funded sports over at that place. And that school has changed drastically since I graduated in 2017. I have season tickets for TCU football. When I go back once a year for a game, the campus is drastically different from when I was a student. And a lot of that comes from the success of football and their other sports. And they understand that's what like alumni wants to be a part of. That's what a lot of people want to be a part of. Not to say that we don't care about the academics. I mean, I want TCU's academics to be very high. It makes my degree more valuable. The other thing that makes my degree more valuable is making it very difficult to get into the school because everybody and their brother wants to go there because they saw them on TV in a national championship game or a big bowl game or watching them for sports. They saw the scenics, all that stuff. That's such a huge asset for schools. San Diego State should be doing that off of the national championship run in college basketball. Great stuff. So, that being said, I think UCSD can keep this up because there's a couple of things. One, they have the support. And number two, they don't have football. They don't have football. You don't have to have football to have success. In fact, a lot of schools don't need football. Look at some of the Big West schools that don't need football. Look at Gonzaga. Gonzaga doesn't need football. They pump all their money in basketball. High Point, who just made the NCAA tournament, they don't have a football team. They don't need football. Because what football does for them is just drain their bank account because it's an expensive sport. And unless you're going to get the support from your school, and alumni, which is not going to be high for some of those schools because they're small, there's no reason to have football. And in basketball, it's a lot easier to put together a team that can make a run in the NCAA tournament, which gets you a lot of money each level you go. We just saw that with San Diego State. For your conference that then gets distributed, you only need a couple of players to do that. So with the resources that they're getting, and for the pledge that they're getting for athletics, the fact that they don't have football and they can focus on basketball are two big reasons why UCSD can keep this going. The other thing that UCSD has and is a major advantage, and this was brought up by my buddy Mike that went to Irvine. It's a great point. When you think about the Big West schools, and I don't know if there's a lot of you out there that are not diehard college athletic fans. That's fine. That probably couldn't name all the Big West schools, but the Big West schools are basically the UCs and the Cal States, plus Hawaii. The schools that do very well are UC Santa Barbara and UC Irvine. What does UC Santa Barbara and UC Irvine have in common for the reason why they are the best at most of the sports in the Big West? I'll let you think about it for a second. What does UC Irvine and UC Santa Barbara have in common that is the reason why they are one of the better schools in the Big West? The answer is they play by the beach. It's in a desirable location. Start going through the Big West schools. Irvine's right next to Newport. In fact, most of the athletes that go to UC Irvine live in Newport Beach. That's pretty awesome. UC Santa Barbara. I mean, we see the landscape and everything about that, and Isle Vista, and kids love going there because it's at the beach. Who else is in that conference? Cal State Bakersfield. Are you kidding me? I mean, no disrespect to anybody from Bakersfield. It's a little bit different. You try to convince an 18-year-old to go play sports in Bakersfield. Look at the other schools in the Big West. Fullerton, Northridge, Davis. I mean, think about some of the locations that these schools are in. And you ask, why is Irvine and Santa Barbara so good? Well, they're by the coast. They're by the beach. It's a lot easier to get kids to go there. What are they going to do? They're going to go to the beach. They have something to do. It's more enticing. UC San Diego, same deal. They're in La Jolla or University City. You could pick. If you want to play the game of is Poway East County, which it's not. It's North County. You should do the same thing for, is that really La Jolla? Or is that UTC? That's the real. I would actually buy into that a little bit if you guys want to say that every once in a while, not just the Poway thing. But they're by the beach, and they're in a desirable city like San Diego. You can convince kids to come here. So that's the biggest reason to me why I think UCSD is going to be able to continue this success. As long as they can keep Eric Olin and everything like that, and I think they can. In the NIL world, it's always going to be difficult, but I think they can. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Adam in Carlsbad who wants to jump on the Braden Surprenant Show. Adam, what's going on? How's your Thursday?
Hey, Braden, I'm doing well. I've appreciated your lung darts from last week when I was ranking stadiums. I left one off PNC Park. That's really high up there. Couple questions. Number one, what do you coach in football? And then number two, I went to St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale, which is probably the best high school football program. And played there under Coach George Smith. And I've always struggled with the intersection of sports with an S and academics. So I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm kind of leaning more towards where you've arrived, which is that it's probably a driver more than not, for sure. Especially with you referenced, TCU, but I'm thinking about these March Madness schools, and the numbers don't lie. So just want to get your thoughts on those couple matters.
Yeah, Adam, I appreciate the phone call. So in terms of coaching. This will be my 8th season now coaching at Cathedral. I have been doing JV for a long time and a little bit of varsity. Now I'm going to be varsity full time. So I'll be the cornerback coach at Cathedral Catholic and special teams coordinator. We got a loaded schedule. Should be fun. I mean, you played at St. Thomas Aquinas. It's a pretty badass school out there in Florida. But they call it the Flutie effect, Adam. It's the Flutie effect. When Doug Flutie made that, big pass or whatever that was way back in the day for Boston College when they beat Notre Dame or whatever it was, they got inundated with applications. That happens a lot. That goes a long way. It's an interesting topic of discussion. We used to talk about it in sports broadcasting class. But 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When we come back, John Heyman's plan about the Padres' plan and why he was shocked that they don't want to sell. I got my thoughts on that. Plus, overreactions to NFL free agency. We roll on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 12:39. We roll on to the Braden Surprenant Show. If you want to join the show today, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Just talking about the Flutie effect. Helping a lot of schools. Take a look at some of the games that are going on right now. Alabama State has pulled within 3 of Auburn, 29-26, under 4 minutes to go in the first half. That's intriguing. Intriguing. Houston is destroying SIU Edwardsville. You can probably write Houston in on your bracket to move on to the next round. And then the Wisconsin and Montana game has officially ended. Wisconsin has knocked off Montana 85-66. Who's still got a perfect bracket? I think a lot of people do. It's been mostly chalk this morning. I don't think we've had any major upsets. If you want to consider a 9/8 an upset, there you go. But it's really a coin flip game. McNeese State and Clemson just got underway too. They're under 14, all tied up at 6. Games that are going to start up in about 20 minutes are VCU and BYU. And then at 1:35, the Georgia Fighting Adam Kluges are taking on the Gonzaga Bulldogs at 1:35 on TBS. Again, if you want to join the show today, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. The thing that UCSD did that I thought was cringe was, and some people in the chat started to figure it out, they started going around campus and Xing out every M on campus on all the signs like Ohio State does when they play Michigan. You know, that's not a thing just because, like, when you play Michigan. That's a thing for Ohio State against Michigan. And how has that worked for Ohio State the last 4 years in football against Michigan? Hasn't really worked out too well. I think it's a tired act. I'm glad that UCSD is fired up for their basketball team. I'm glad the students are getting involved. I'm glad they're going to the games. I'm glad they're at D1 school now. It's come up with our own thing here. Like, you don't really have a lot of beef with Michigan. I don't know why you got to, like, X out the M's. Like, it's not... I mean, I get it and I don't. I just think it's kind of ridiculous. So, I mean, that's what they did. I get it's not a huge deal. Some people in town thought it was funny or cool. I mean, it's interesting, to say the least. I don't know if that's a move that I would particularly be super fired up about, but it is what it is. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's go out to La Mesa in East County where Parker stands by. Parker, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on?
Hey, Braden, how are you?
I'm doing well, man.
It's a funny thing. I'm actually out here scrolling the campus of UC San Diego. I'm actually wrapping up my senior year here, and I wanted to chat really quick just about athletics.
How many? Hold on. How many crossed out M's have you seen today?
I've only seen one on on a little sign, but I actually saw it all on Reddit yesterday, and I was like, "This is hilarious. I love this."
It is pretty funny. It is funny.
We're a nerd school. Like, we don't have traditions. We don't have anything. This is all we got right now. So let's freaking take it and run with it. Let's have some fun with it.
Embrace it. I like it. What do you got for me?
So I played water polo here for a couple of years, and just in my short experience with the athletic program, and transitioning to the D1 level, it's A, great, but B, there's one caveat. There's one handicap that the athletic department has, and that it's still heavily involved with the rec scenario here at UC San Diego. So I think in order for the D1 program to really get to that next level, to really take the next step, they got to break away from the rec program, especially financially. They got to be able to have their own pool to distribute to athletes, distribute to teams, to really, make this school the D1 program it deserves, because it's growing student-wise, it's growing immensely. I mean, the construction going on campus is insane every time I'm out here walking around. And so it deserves all of the best athletics that it can get after being such a monstrous academic school. So, but that's just my quick take on that. But, I mean, freaking love the school, love that we're in the tournament. Let's go try to win it all.
Yeah, I love it, Parker. Embrace it. Enjoy it. I mean, this is it's always fun when your school is in the NCAA tournament. I mentioned earlier, everybody in my family's had their school make the NCAA tournament this year, except for mine. So I feel like missing out. I feel like I'm missing out right now. But what a great experience for all you guys at UCSD that might have signed on before they're officially D1, but now officially in the spot where they can make the postseason. And I never thought that this potential day would ever happen. First of all, becoming D1, and then, of course, making the NCAA tournament. When we talked with Earl Edwards, Parker, they've pumped a lot of money into, obviously Lion Tree, and they've upgraded the softball field and everything like that. I'm sure they'll be making their rounds to all the athletic facilities throughout UCSD's campus. So I appreciate the phone call, man. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy your Thursday. We talked about it enough. We've teased it enough, about the Padres. John Heyman was on his Bleacher Report walk-off little podcast thing that he does. And he was answering a lot of questions from fans. And now most of it's usually from the East Coast, and it's trying to find pitchers for the Yankees because they need some pitching right now, yada, yada, yada. And so the Padres usually come up. Well, John Heyman was shocked about how the Padres think that they could be a contender in 2025, and they think they could be a playoff team, and surprised that they didn't sell a lot of their assets on one-year deals during the offseason. And here's what he had to say about the Padres selling plan.
All right, Padres sale. Let's get to that. I don't know. Should we call it the Padres sale? I don't know if we can call it that. They still have Cease. They still have King. They still have Suarez. They still have Cronenworth. Everybody is still there. We didn't expect them to trade Tatis, Machado, certainly not Merrill. We get that. But there were so many rumors and talks out there, and they had scouts all over the place looking at teams that were interested in Cease. And I think there are up to 9 teams that have shown interest in Cease, including all 5 AL East teams. Let me make that clear. All 5 AL East teams have been on Cease, as have the Cubs, as have the Mets. But at this point, Darvish has got a little bit of a setback. They want to win. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for them to trade Cease. We'll see. That's probably more of a mid-year trade deadline discussion between Cease, King, whomever. But, the Padres feel like, even though they've not played well in spring training, they've been particularly bad at times in spring training. They feel with the talent they have, certainly with Tatis, Machado, Merrill, Darvish, Cease, King, Suarez, that bullpen, that they should be able to contend for playoffs. But I don't want to say contend for the division. They're not crazy. The Dodgers are an all-time great team. But it does feel like that Padres sale has kind of diminished to where it's probably a Padres hold more than a Padres sale. There probably are some teams still pining for Cease, who had a big outing. I believe it was against the Angels, 8 strikeouts in 4 innings. Another starting pitcher, that's probably talking about the Yankees. Would be good if they could get somebody. Kyle Gibson's still out there. You still got Spencer Turnbull, whose name I can never.
He goes on to talk about Spencer Turnbull potentially for the Padres too. Why didn't they sign him? That's like a follow-up question at the end of that. That's what you missed before he starts talking about the Yankees. The level of disappointment in his voice is ridiculous. I'm so tired of national pundits always talking about how disappointed they are in the San Diego Padres for not being the AAA affiliate of the major market programs. It's ridiculous. How many years have we seen the Padres dish out tons of money? In a row. How many years? It's been at least since 2019. That's 6 straight years. And they still act shocked. We've talked about spring training results and viewing them with a grain of salt just because they don't mean anything. They mean something when they do well. They don't mean anything when they do poorly. The fact that he went out and said they still think they can compete despite the fact that they're not playing well in spring training. They have a bad record in spring training. Really, John? Really? We're looking at records right now in spring training. They haven't played particularly well. Individually, a lot of the Padres have actually played particularly well. We've talked about Manny. He always is a guy that starts off slow and then really hits his stride. I'm not worried about him. His numbers might be down. They haven't played particularly well in spring training. That would be like watching the teams in the preseason. Hey, they're 3-0. Better watch out. They might have a big year this year. Browns are 0-3. I don't know about that. Hey, Kansas City Chiefs are 0-3 right now in preseason. They think they could compete this year. Really, John? Really? It's exhausting. It's a tired act. It's tired. It's so tired. Let's continue to shove Shohei Ohtani down my throat 24/7. I mean, the amount of Shohei Ohtani coverage is ridiculous. I get he's the best player, and I get you want to market your best player. But the NBA, by making LeBron the number one talking point all the time, has run people out of the NBA because they're tired of hearing the same stuff over and over and over again, shoved down their throat. And the same thing with the Chiefs, with Mahomes and the Chiefs and the Taylor Swift. I mean, stop shoving stuff down people's throats. You want a quick way for people to just be completely turned off by your product, continually put the same thing or the same person everywhere like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. People are going to lose interest fast. You know, Tani thing, Chiefs and the Mahomes deal, and, you know, LeBron in the NBA. It's enough. You know, Heyman's got his own deals that he's got to do. He's East Coast guy. I mean, the East Coast guys are always like that. He's constantly trying to pick off the Padres. Oh, you know what? Well, just because they're a team that doesn't traditionally spend money does not mean they're a team that cannot spend money. They have spent it. They're not getting rid of these guys for the betterment of you, a.k.a. the major teams in baseball. I mean, every time the Padres made a move, this is the dumbest move ever. Everybody else makes the same move. Oh, it's great. Tired. It's a tired act. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get down to Clay in the South Bay. Clay, what's going on, man?
Braden, I'm going to tell you, first of all, what a chucklehead. You know, I would have called in yesterday, but I didn't want to call in and sound like I was off base without doing my own research. You know how I don't like to just call in and spout off. But you know, you did bring up a point yesterday or the day before about whether or not we could compete with the Dodgers, yada yada, with the loss of, you know, Kim and Scott and a couple others. And I went back to all the games that we played them last year, Braden, and I'm going to tell you something. We can definitely still compete with the Dodgers. One word: pitching. Our pitching was still superior to theirs, even though in most of the games we were throwing more than 3 pitchers at them. But bottom line is we won the battle during the regular season. So can we compete with the Dodgers? The answer to that question is most definitely so.
Well, I think they and Clay, I appreciate the phone call, man, as always. You know, I definitely think that in the regular season, it's not like they're going to get smoked in all 3 games. But I will say this: I mean, their team has drastically improved since last year. I thought the Padres' best chance of knocking them off for a potential division or even like to go to the World Series was late in last season. And then on top of that, they didn't really add to their team. I mean, I think the health status of all those veterans, as we mentioned, are a big upgrade for the Padres. But I don't think it's enough to like overcome the Dodgers. I just don't think so. And at the same time, I don't think it really matters because I think they can do it as long as they do in the postseason. That's all that really matters. That's why, like, the division, that's icing on the cake if you even come close to competing for that. But you don't want to burn yourself out trying to catch LA in the regular season when you got bigger fish to fry. You know, the thing that's more particular to the Padres right now are the Mets, the Phillies, the Braves, whoever doesn't win the NL East. And I think the Braves are going to win the NL East. The Cubs, maybe the Brewers, whoever doesn't win the Central. Although I don't think the loser of the Central, in terms of like who comes in second, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. And then the Diamondbacks and then the sleeping giant, the Giants, who apparently are poised to have a breakout season according to ESPN. So despite all that, you know, that's where you have to That's your real competition right now. The Dodgers in the division is one thing. I mean, it's not like baseball is going to keep things even. That's the biggest equalizer in this entire thing is the fact that baseball and the playoffs are, anybody can win any day. You have a bad day on the hill, out of your ace, and all of a sudden you're behind the eight ball, 1-0. Or maybe you have a better ace than they do. Baseball is the biggest equalizer when it comes to the postseason. That's why you just got to make the dance. It's 162 games in about 180 days. And the Padres got to fly all over the country more than anybody else. We'll get back to your phone calls when we start the 1 o'clock hour. We'll preview UCSD and Michigan coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. And later on at 1:30, an idea that Deion Sanders has that I can actually get behind. Jay and Escudito will get to you when we come back. The Braden Surprenant Show, setting his number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Final hour of the Braden Surprenant Show. Day 1 of March Madness. Day 2 will continue tomorrow as we will be at Dave & Buster's. Come out and say hi to us at Dave & Buster's. We'll be there all day tomorrow from 6 a.m. through 6 p. Through 7 o'clock, because Matt Scraby will be on as well. Ben and Woods will kick things off at 6 a.m. I'll be on from 10 to 2. Gwen and Chris will be on from 2 to 6, and then wrap up the show with Scraby Show at 6 o'clock. Breakfast burrito station, drink specials on mimosas, Bloody Marys, and beer throughout the day. Basketball shooting competition, hourly raffle giveaways. Join us at Dave & Buster's at 2931 Camino del Rio North tomorrow for a full day of fun with your favorite fan talk shows. Who's going to say it first in the chat? Who's going to say it first in the chat? Brandon? Brandon, say it first in the chat. Does that count? Do we know what we're talking about? It's time for the biggest fan. Biggest fan. It's 1 o'clock. It's always time for the biggest fan. At 1 o'clock, as we announce today's biggest fan. I had it for a second, and I lost the name. You guys continue to manifest. Keep manifesting your names there in the chat to try to win the biggest fan contest, which will give you an opportunity to our grand prize, 20 tickets for you and your friends for a night in our Odyssey Suite at a Padres game later this season. Second to last day of the biggest fan. And today's biggest fan is Richard Price in El Cajon. Richard Price in El Cajon. You are today's biggest fan. Richard Price in El Cajon. You are today's biggest fan. You have 10 minutes to give us a call at 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973, and you'll qualify for a grand prize, 20 tickets for you and your friends for a night in our Odyssey Suite at a Padres game later this season. Remember to register your name at 97throughthefansd.com/biggest fan. So Richard Price, and then we have 4 more names, and that's it. 4 more names after today with Richard Price, and that's it. With 2 more in the afternoon show and 1 more each on our show and the morning show that we'll announce, obviously, tomorrow. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to the phones where a lot of people want to weigh in on some talking points from today. Let's get out to Jay in San Diego. Jay, what's going on? Long time no talk.
Hey, how are you?
Doing well.
It's okay to ask how the coach is doing?
He's doing fine.
Yeah, haven't heard his voice anywhere. Hope he's doing all right. He was the coach at Torrey Pines when I was there. So there. About the Padres, minor league. You mean training? Spring training means nothing. Never has.
Correct.
And nobody ever adds on to it. And we've had players. George Arios, I think it was the third baseman, who had like 40 home runs in preseason and didn't even hit the ball. So that means nothing. I don't care what everyone from the New York area says. That's crap. Yeah, it's just junk. The thing that I would say is, and I've called for years, and I don't know if I'm in touch with you with this. I am a realistic person. How I feel about the Padres, I'm disappointed. I'm going to be one of those callers who's saying we didn't do anything better this year. When the coach comes out and says, you know what, we're going to study, we're going to really worry about defensive work for our catcher. What that means is, we're going to be more like Austin Hedges, and we're not worrying about ever getting hit because we don't have anyone. And that's the way it comes across to me, Braden. So catching is nothing, 0. We didn't add anybody to the starting, and we lost a left fielder. Guys like Cronenworth, he's not getting any younger, and let's be honest, he's not getting any better. So I'm just going to say I got this team in for about 75 wins. That's
75 wins, Jay. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Okay,
just remember me at the end of the year when I call. Remember that.
Write it down. We'll write it down. 75 wins. I'm not saying this team's going to the World Series. I'm definitely not saying that. Jay, you bring up a lot of good points with some of the spots that obviously need to be addressed. I think a lot of different opportunities will arise for certain Padres players. I think as a core, the team is good enough to be a playoff team. And now whether or not they play to that level, it will remain to be seen. But, I think a lot of Padres fans are just they have this negative sense right now because of what has transpired over the offseason, and we like to forget about how good some of the Padres players are. They're not winning the division. I can say that right now. I think most people in the chat would agree with me that they're not winning the division, and it doesn't matter about winning the division. But I will say, I think the Padres do match up against a lot of the teams that they're competing with in the wild and for wild card spots. I think the National League is a lot better than the American League. You know, I think the Padres, I think the Diamondbacks are going to be good, but I don't think they're far superior to the Padres. I mean, that's how you have to break this thing down. You have to start looking at some of the other teams. Now, when you compare yourself to the Dodgers, yeah, obviously it doesn't look very great, but you only play them 13 times. You still got to play the rest of the league. They got to be able to take care of business against bad teams. We've seen that be a problem for them in the past. Rockies, Angels last year. But I look at the Padres and I look at the Phillies. You know, the Phillies probably have a slight edge, but they got a lot of holes on their team as well. I look at the Padres and I look at the Giants. I think the Padres are better than the Giants. I look at the Padres, look at the Diamondbacks. I think the Diamondbacks have a really good team. But I also think the Padres are good enough to beat the Diamondbacks. I look at the Padres, look at the Cubs. I mean, good news for the Padres. The Cubs are already 0-2 to start the season. You're already a game up on the Cubs in the wild card. You know, I look at the Padres, look at the Brewers. I think the Padres are better than the Brewers. I don't think the Mets are that particularly great. I think they have, you know, obviously they got the love with the Juan Soto, and their top 4 spots in the lineup are good, but then it really falls off after that, and their starting pitching is okay. They got a couple of good arms, but it's not like this, you know, great rotation. So as much as that, you know, and we focus on the Padres a lot, obviously, because that's our portion of the world, and we're so locked in on the Padres, I think this plays a factor for all of us for multiple things. One, I don't think we give enough teams credit when they are better, when we think we have a really good team. And on top of that, I also don't think we really look into all of the other holes that other teams have. Because a lot of other teams that the Padres are competing with have the same holes or different holes that they have to fill as well. And when you start comparing the Padres to other teams in the league and you realize you're right there, that's where you got to get the positivity of the season and see what happens. I mean, otherwise, why watch? I mean, just go through the 15 teams in the National League. Padres are better than the Rockies. There's one team you don't have to worry about. Padres are better than the Marlins. You don't have to worry about them either. Padres are better than, I would say, I think they're better than the Cardinals right now. I think they're better than the Pirates right now. I think they're better than the Reds, even though I think the Reds might have a little bit better of a year. I think they're better than all those teams. I mean, you're starting to wipe teams off the list, all right? So that goes down to 14 after the Rockies. It goes down to 13 after the Marlins. It goes down to 12, 11, 10 after the teams in the Central. I think they're better than the Nationals. That's down to 9. You don't have to worry about the top 3 because they're going to win their divisions. So that's not really part of the conversation either. So now you're down to 6, which includes the Padres. And of those 6, 3 are going to make the playoffs. You got to be better than 3 teams in the National League out of the 6 teams that are going to be competing for that spot. Phillies, Padres, Giants, Mets, Diamondbacks, Cubs. If you don't think the Padres compete with those 6 teams, I'm telling you, you're nuts. They can compete with those 6 teams. They got to do better than 3 of them. That's where we're at. That's why like everybody's, why are you so positive about the Padres? I mean, I'm not thinking of going to the World Series right now. We'll see how the season goes out. I have only thought the Padres can make the World Series one time in my lifetime that I can remember. And it was honestly in August of last year was the first time I was like, you know, they might actually be able to make the World Series. And they were probably a couple innings away from doing so. But when you start breaking it down, and those are the teams you have to compare the Padres to, not the Dodgers. You got to compare it to the other teams in the National League that they're competing for a postseason spot with. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We got Zach in Mission Valley. Zach, what's going on? How's your Thursday going, my man?
Hey, Brandon. First time listener, long time caller, and I wanted to say I think people are vastly underestimating the Diamondbacks. I think I can only really look and say that I think the Padres are probably the third best team in the National League right now. That's just doing a lot of assuming on my part that a lot of these guys are going to have rebound years. Nick Pivetta is going to be good. Our rotation is going to be solid. And I don't think a lot of the other teams that you were talking about, of those 6 teams, have a really solid rotation like we do. I mean, we have 2 bona fide aces at the start, 1 and 2. And but the only other teams I can think of are the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. I think the Diamondbacks are probably going to have a better shot at winning. That's my dark take. I could see the division going 50-50. I mean, we all know the Dodgers are going to be 100 wins, but I think that their rotation is, like every other year, pretty shaky because it's all a lot of high strikeout, high injury pitchers who aren't really consistent. And I think the Diamondbacks are really solid, really consistent, really quality pitchers. I mean, you got Zach Gallen, who's a bona fide ace. You got Brandon Pfaadt, who people are saying is a dark horse Cy Young candidate. You got Corbin Burns, who they just signed. I mean, and you had the number 1 run scoring offense, I'm pretty sure 2 years in a row now. And that offense only got better. Well, got a little worse at first base.
Zach, you're right on the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are good. They're going to be really good. You know, that's the team that the Padres should be worried about more than the Dodgers. I mean, everybody in the chat all the time, not everybody, majority, a lot of the doomers like to talk about that, but the Dodgers are not. It's the Diamondbacks that you need to be more worried about than the Dodgers, because that's the team you're competing for a playoff spot for. You're not competing with the Dodgers for a playoff spot. In fact, you want the Dodgers to beat up on everybody else in the National League to help you out make the playoffs. That's how you should be viewing this. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When we come back, we'll let you know how UCSD will beat Jake Waters' Michigan team. Plus, what did Deion come up with that I think is a great idea that college football should implement? We'll talk about that to finish up the show. Braden Surprenant Show, staying on Sports Station 97 through the Fan. Plug your ears if you're a Clemson Tiger fan. Man, they're getting worked right now. It's halftime in the Midwest region first round. McNeese State is up 31-13 on the Clemson Tigers. Just taking it to Clemson. Hopefully you didn't have Clemson going very far in your bracket. And if you did, you better hope that they start coming back in the second half and have a good second half, because McNeese is off to a great start here in the NCAA tournament. Other games for you. Alabama State was hanging with Auburn for a little bit right before halftime. Auburn started to pull away. They're at 14 now, 47-33 in favor of the Auburn Tigers. They have gotten to the 17-minute mark in the second half. BYU and VCU just got underway. BYU's up 14-12 as they approach the under 12 timeout. And then game coming up in a matter of just about 15 minutes or so. The Bulldog matchup, Georgia and Gonzaga, will tip off at 1:35 on TBS. Gonzaga a 7.5-point favorite against Georgia, and that will wrap up the morning slate of games in day one. Afternoon slate will get tipped off at 4:10 as Arkansas and Kansas will get underway on CBS, followed by Yale and Texas A&M at 4:25, Drake, Missouri at 4:35, and Utah State and UCLA at 6:25. That's the second half portion of today's bracket, today's NCAA tournament. UCSD and Michigan will tip off until 7 o'clock. That's coming up later on TBS. Other games that have gone final today: Houston has knocked off SIU Edwardsville 78-40 in the 116 matchup. 3-seeded Wisconsin beat the 14th-seeded Montana Grizzlies 85-66 in the East region. First game of the day was the Creighton Jays. They beat Louisville in the 9-8 matchup 89-75 in the South region. And then Purdue handles High Point 75-63 in the 4-13 matchup in the Midwest region. So those are all the games coming up. Wofford and Tennessee will tip off at 3:50. I forgot to mention that. Tennessee's favored by 18.5 in that particular game. We want to talk about this UCSD and Michigan game tonight. UCSD set to make history, playing in its first ever Division I NCAA tournament game against Michigan, which is a program with obviously a storied March Madness legacy. March Madness legacy that goes back to and connects to San Diego State, with Steve Fisher being at Michigan. I thought it was funny earlier this week. Steve Fisher was on with Ben and Woods, and they asked him, well, who are you rooting for, Michigan or UCSD? And he didn't want to tell anybody. So we'll see who he's rooting for. Obviously, he went through all the work through it of, the what he had at Michigan and his time there and everything like that. But I thought that was pretty funny. Tritons are on a 15-game winning streak. They're undersized, but they're known for aggressive defense, and they got that chip on their shoulder mentality. Michigan, meanwhile, boasts a superior size and tournament experience, but is aware of the dangers of underestimating a so-called Cinderella, which UCSD might be. UCSD ranks 4th in the country in steal percentage, while Michigan struggles to take care of the ball. Just, turnovers might be able to decide this game. When you got two behemoths in the middle for Michigan and you're a little bit undersized as UCSD, keep things on the perimeter and use that three-point basket that has been very clutch for UCSD throughout the season in the Big West. That's going to be a major factor in this game. I mean, playing good defense, forcing turnovers, winning over the turnover margin, if they can extend offensive possessions with rebounding, that would be great, although I don't think that's going to be a particularly good matchup for UCSD against Michigan. But the fact that the Tritons force turnovers and Michigan is sloppy with the basketball is a major plus for UCSD in tonight's game. I mean, that defensive intensity is a great equalizer in these March Madness upsets. We've seen San Diego State pull it off in years past. So for UCSD, they check a lot of boxes for teams that are double-digit seeds winning in the first round of the NCAA tournament. They're older than a lot of other teams. They got a lot of seniors on this team, a lot of older players. That always goes a long way for these underdog mid-majors. They play good defense, and they can shoot the three ball. They have some coaching experience, obviously, at the NCAA tournament. UCSD has not, been in the Division I NCAA tournament, even though Eric Olin has coached in other levels of the division of the NCAA tournament, Division II and D3. UCSD's, got two stats that have made the Tritons a very trendy upset pick in a lot of the brackets. One is that 12 seeds have upset 5 seeds in 33 of the last 39 NCAA tournaments. The other is that the Tritons rank 4th nationally in steal percentage, and Michigan ranks 240th in its ability to take care of the rock. That's going to be a major key in this particular game. Another possible edge for UCSD, I don't think it's going to be that big of an edge. Again, they're playing in Denver, at the Mile High City. UCSD has played and won in altitude this season, being Utah State at 4,770 feet. For all Michigan's players know, elevation is climbing up a water tower. That's in the article by Mark Ziegler. I think that might play a little bit of effect. It's not like UCSD has played multiple games at altitude like a San Diego State has in their league. I mean, most of the games that UCSD does play is in fact at sea level, with the Big West Conference being mostly in California and then one trip to Hawaii. But this UCSD basketball team has come a long way. Transitioned from NCAA Division II to D1 following a student referendum in 2016 and then formal approval from the Big West Conference in 2017. Tritons officially became eligible for the NCAA tournament this year in 2024, and their men's basketball team quickly gained national attention with a 30-4 record and a 15-game win streak. Despite being in Division I, UCSD retained many Division II characteristics, running a 5-out offense, utilizing a unique matchup and zone defense, relying on roster composed mainly of Division II transfers. Players like Anawata Tate Jones, who's the Big West Player of the Year, Hayden Gray, who's the Big West Defensive Player of the Year, and Tyler Magai have thrived despite being overlooked by traditional D1 programs. Head coach Eric Olin and his staff have leveraged their Division II experience to recruit players hungry for an opportunity rather than those seeking NIL deals. They've done a good job in being that team that has a chip on their shoulder, being that underdog, and getting players that want to go out there and show that they can play at a D1 level. There's a lot of those guys out there that get overlooked by D1 schools, especially now. I think this might be a trend in the future. Rick Pitino at St. John's said, before the NCAA tournament a couple of weeks ago, that they're not even recruiting high school players anymore. Because in order to compete at the level they want to compete at in the Big East Conference, and they have to replace certain seniors or players that are leaving for the NBA or to the next level, in order to replace those guys, they have to go in the portal and find other players with that experience and that size. You're not getting that all the time out of an 18-year-old out of high school. So what does that do? Well, with a lot of the big schools really just going into the portal to improve their team, there's a lot of players that are not getting recruited out of high school that will fall to lower-level mid-majors or potentially to D2 schools. They develop at a D2 school, and then maybe UCSD picks them up. I mean, you always saw that with the JUCO kind of transfers, but the way that UCSD was able to do it for Division II, I think is interesting. I think it's an interesting play. I think it's an interesting strategy. Is this UCSD's team and their success an anomaly, or maybe a new blueprint for mid-major programs? Now, can other schools replicate UCSD's model of recruiting overlooked Division II players? Because a lot of these guys have to move to different spots, right? And have to change the way that they recruit in order to get the players to fill their teams that they have. Like we talked about with the California Baptist coach a couple of days ago. So very interesting to see what UCSD has been able to do and what they're going to do tonight. I think they have all the proper boxes checked to be an upset today over Michigan. It should be a fun time, win or lose. All you Triton fans out there, everybody that's a UCSD alum, enjoy the game, enjoy the moment tonight, enjoy being in the NCAA tournament, and maybe you can make some noise and shock the world. And we'll see what happens in the A&M Yale game. Padres made a move today that involves a former pitcher. We'll talk about that. Plus, what is one thing that Deion Sanders said that I agree with that should be implied in college football? We'll wrap up the show with that on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Final segment, the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Be sure to come check us out tomorrow. We'll be live at Dave & Buster's in Mission Valley all day long in celebration of the biggest college hoops tournament of the year. Ben and Woods kick things off at 6 a.m., followed by myself at 10, Gwen and Chris at 2, and then we'll wrap up the day with the Scraby Show at 6. There'll be a breakfast burrito station, drink specials on mimosas, Bloody Marys, and beer throughout the day, basketball shooting competition, and hourly raffle giveaways. Join us at Dave & Buster's at 2931 Camino del Rio North for tomorrow for a full fun day with your favorite fan talk show. So I'll be there a little bit early tomorrow to catch the tail end of Ben and Woods and hang out with you guys, and I'll stay a little bit after as well. Should be a fun time. Post up and watch some college basketball. So hopefully if you guys have time in the lunchtime hour, stop by and have some lunch with us at Dave & Buster's, watch some games. I don't know why you'd even be working on tomorrow anyway. I would imagine most of the productivity has gone way down for the NCAA tournament, but we appreciate it. We appreciate you guys joining us today and hopefully again tomorrow. Let's get you updated on some NCAA tournament scores. Auburn cruising over Alabama State. They're up by 20 now as they get to the under 12 mark in the second half. McNeese State all over Clemson, 31-13. They're at halftime. So Clemson's going to have to put a little comeback together if they want to be able to continue their season in the NCAA tournament. VCU, BYU are all knotted. They're both knotted up at 22 with 7:42 to go in the first half. They're at the under 8 timeout right now. I saw Jimmer Fredette was in attendance for that particular game. Houston knocked off SIU Edwardsville earlier today, 78-40. Wisconsin over Montana, 85-66. Creighton beat Louisville, 89-75. And the other final today was Purdue over High Point, 75-63. Last game of the early slate is Gonzaga and Georgia, and they're about to tip off. They're moments away from doing so. Gonzaga, 7.5-point favorite over the Bulldogs of Georgia. Afternoon slate, Arkansas and Kansas will start at 4:10. First game of the afternoon slate's actually Wofford and Tennessee at 3:50. Tennessee's an 18.5-point favorite against the Terriers. Arkansas and Kansas will tip off moments after that at 4:10. At 4:25, it's Texas A&M and Yale. And at 4:35, it's Missouri and it's Drake. Night games, Utah State, UCLA, Omaha, St. John's, UC San Diego Tritons in Michigan, UNC Wilmington, and Texas Tech will be the final game of the night from Wichita, Kansas. And that's a look at the NCAA tournament. Your latest update. We talked about it going into break, but a former Padre is coming back. Former Cy Young Award winner Jake Peavy joins the Padres as a special assistant. He will be the special assistant to the CEO, Eric Grupner, which is announced today. In his new role, Peavy will assist multiple departments within the Padres organization and serve as an ambassador to the Padres and their fans and the San Diego community. Jake Peavy was on with Ben and Woods earlier today to talk about what it means coming back to the organization now as part of the group.
It starts with Peter Seidler, Eric Grupner. I remember where I was sitting. I was at work with the network when I got a text from Eric Grupner asking if we could jump on the phone. And he just said, look, Peter's trying to link up with you, and we'd love to just talk with you. And that's where it started. I shortly got on a phone call with Peter, and he just was so welcoming and warming and wanting to bring back in some of the old alumni. I was super appreciative of it. And over the last few years, I've just gotten to know Eric Grupner really well. Tom Seidler has become a great friend and family. And just watching what they've turned San Diego into and then continuing to grow was super exciting for me in that world. And then, like you talked about, anytime that I was out there in engaging with the community and fans, it felt so right. It felt they were super appreciative to have me back around. I felt that, and I felt super gracious and grateful for the welcome home reception, kind of, so to speak. So this ties it all in a bow and just allows me to come engage. I was joking in some manner about being around you guys, but the Padre fans and family are my family, and San Diego is home. So to have reason to be out there more, to tie in with the team who drafted me, gave me my first chance. Feels good.
Feels good as a Padres fan and as a member of the media to know that Jake Peavy's back. That's great. I thought it was awesome that, when he was part of the Hall of Champions, dinner, the Salute the Champions dinner earlier this year, I was able to attend. I was invited by USD Baseball, who got an honor there as well. But the two of the main inductees were Adrian Gonzalez and Jake Peavy. And the stories that Jake Peavy told and his passion for San Diego and how much the city means to him and how it always will keep a place in his heart. It's great to have him back. And as mentioned in the press release, we're excited for Jake to rejoin the Padres after an outstanding playing career. Said Eric Grupner, beyond his impressive accomplishments on the field, Jake brings a passionate, competitive spirit and leadership qualities that align perfectly with our organizational values. His wisdom, experience, and relationships in the game are invaluable as we continue to pursue a World Series championship for the city of San Diego and our fans. Jake Peavy had this to say also in the press release after he joined Ben & Woods. I'm incredibly appreciative of this opportunity to reunite with my Padres family. San Diego has always held a special place in my heart. I'm a Padre through and through from the moment I was drafted by the team until this very day, and I can't wait to work alongside this talented group and contribute in any way I can to the success of this great organization. He's the 18th member of the Padres Hall of Fame, in which he was inducted in 2023, became the only Padre to ever notch a pitching triple crown in franchise history, which he did in 2007. 19 wins, 2.54 ERA, and 240 strikeouts. He went 92-68 with a 3.29 career ERA with a 1.19 whip and 1,348 strikeouts over 212 career starts for the Padres from 2002 to 2009. And, of course, he won the NL Cy Young in 2007. So it's going to be great to have Jake Peavy back with the Padres organization. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973, the number to call if you want to join the show today. Wrapping it up here in the last segment as we get you updates on college basketball. McNeese State and Clemson have finally started the second half. McNeese up 33-16. Auburn is at the 10-minute mark left in the second half. They're up 60-42 on Alabama State. BYU and VCU still knotted up at 24 now with 5 minutes to go in the first half. And Gonzaga off to an 8-0 run on Georgia as we get to 17 minutes left in the first half. There was something Deion Sanders said this week that I thought was actually a great idea. And I think it should be implemented in college football, and I think college football can take it a step further. Deion Sanders wants NFL-style model for spring ball because about the way the practices go about. So this is what Deion Sanders had to say. I would actually like to play the spring game against another team in the spring. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I would like to style it like the pros. I'd like to go against someone in practice for a few days, and then you have the spring game. I think the public would be satisfied with that tremendously. I think it's a tremendous idea. I've told those personnel who should understand that it's a tremendous idea. It really is a tremendous idea. Is it even allowed? Currently, it's not. Under current NCAA bylaws, an NCAA spokesman told USA Today Sports, who reported on this story, teams cannot play another school in the spring. So for now, at least, the entire league and the art of the entire thing is a pipe dream. That, of course, could change, but likely not soon. As for the merits of the idea, obviously it's very smart. NFL teams will conduct joint practices with another team for several days during training camp. Conversely, college teams practice against themselves, leading to a scrimmage. Most starters in the NFL don't play in the preseason games, but many of them take parts in these practices. Sanders' idea makes sense, but it does come with the risks. Obviously, one of the ironies of Sanders' idea is that some NFL teams, while utilizing joint practices, are cutting back on the number of days teams participate in those practices because too many instances they turn into all-out brawls. On the NFL level, the summer practices between the two teams are often extremely intense. In the summer of 2024, multiple fights happened during a joint practice between the Lions and Giants. Fights were so problematic, the NFL fined both franchises $200,000 each. I think this is a great idea. I think this should be implemented in college football. But I think they should take it a step further. Now, if it's for a spring game, I am way more inclined to watch a spring game that is an actual game that is against another team than I am with the spring game where it's kind of like a scrimmage and you scrimmage yourself and it's in the middle of April during baseball season and I don't really care, especially with the transfer portal being open after. That's why a lot of these schools aren't really doing a spring game anymore. They go out and say, well, we don't want to do the spring game because we're not really accomplishing what we want to accomplish and we can't get the kids, to be, involved and really, putting in the work that they need to put in. No, the fact of the matter is you've had too many kids leaving the transfer portal because of the playing time after the spring game. And so now you want to keep the spring. You don't want to play the spring game anymore because you don't want all of your depth pieces to just walk away because they're not playing anymore. That's the real reason why schools aren't doing spring games. I used to work the spring game when I worked for the football team at TCU. It was a gigantic waste of time. But fans like to go because they got their little sense of football. I think in certain areas of the country, it plays out a little bit better than others. I don't think it would be very beneficial, really. I don't think it's that beneficial for San Diego State to have a spring game. I don't think a lot of people out here care enough to go. Now, if San Diego State had a spring game and played another team, I might be able to. I might be interested in going. So I think the idea is good. I think the concept is there. Now, here's where I think it would make it better for college football. If they did this in week 0 or in fall camp, I think it would be beneficial to college football for so many different reasons. Spring game's one thing. I think spring football is interesting. I think I get why they do it, to get extra practices in. A lot of kids now are forgoing their second semester of their senior year to get up to speed with college football and all that stuff. But here's where I think it'd be great. I think it goes in line with my czar of changing college football in general. But what you do is you eliminate the games against the FCS out of the 12-game schedule. I've been an advocate for this for years. I think it's a BS easy win for the SEC schools in week 15 in November when it's not like, they're basically just taking an extra bye to stay healthy. I think it's a ridiculous game that I have to pay for as a season ticket holder to watch TCU play Long Island, like I care. And I know they're just trying to get an extra win to become bowl eligible, which that's going to be pretty much worthless in the future anyway, with the way that college athletics is going. But to me, I think you put it up as a week 0 game that doesn't count. I think you make it the preseason game. Eliminate the FCS matchup. Because the biggest knock on that is, well, how are they supposed to get their paycheck in order to fund the program? First of all, I don't really care. But on the second part, all right, if we want to keep that alive, make it the week 0 game that doesn't count and have them play and do the whole practice thing the whole week. Play the team. They can come out, right? All the Power 5 and the group of, or Power 4 and group of 6 schools can host FCS schools. Knock it all out in week 0. Have the practices open. You can have open practices for the fans. I mean, if you're practicing against somebody else, what are you hiding exactly? You have them come out, you practice for 3 days, you play a game, it doesn't count, you get to practice everything you need to practice, you get the reps in you need to get in that everybody talks about when you play all these FCS schools. It's week 0, it kicks off the season, and then you go let all the big boys play the big schools. Deion's on the right track with this. I like the idea. I don't like it in spring. I like it in the fall. So if you look at San Diego State's, football schedule, we'll compare it to San Diego, right? Obviously. They play Stony Brook in the first game of the year at home, which I think is an FCS school. So instead of playing Stony Brook on August 28th, you would theoretically play Stony Brook on August 21st on the Saturday or whatever it is. I don't know. That could be like a Thursday game. I mean, they move this stuff all the time. But the first week. So that's the 23rd. So instead of playing Stony Brook on Thursday the 28th, You play them on Saturday the 23rd for week 0. You let them practice the first 3, practice together for a couple of days. You play the game. And for a lot of fans, include it in the ticket package, the season ticket package, and let them go to the game. You can make it a little bit cheaper for that. That's a good way to get families inside the stadium. And you play a game. And even though it doesn't count, people will still go because they're itching for football at that point in the year. And then it frees up a spot and an opportunity for you to go play out a better school in the non-conference. I think this is a great way to set up the beginning of the college football season. You take it from the FCS school in town in USD. Now, USD is a little bit different because they're non-scholarship FCS, so they can't necessarily play against a scholarship group of 5 school or whatever like that. But you could even theoretically have them practice with San Diego State, and that's probably not good for health with the transparency of the different, or the difference between the FCS non-scholarship between FCS and then, of course, FBS, which is the mid-tier, whatever. But, they go play a low-level Division I school and practice for a couple of days. They get the paycheck for being out there, playing the game. This definitely plays in the South. I mean, are you telling me if you you make it part of the season ticket package like you would do with the NFL, and so you get that game paid for anyway, you get your first game that you want to see kids playing, and people in Athens, Georgia are fired up to watch the Dogs a week earlier, who are currently losing to Gonzaga like it's a football game. They're down 18-3. Zags need to work on their point after attempts, apparently. Georgia made a field goal. See what happens when you watch your team for the first time? It's just not good. Come on, man. The SEC, it just means more. Got to be able to take down the West Coast Conference school. But I think it's okay. I like the idea. I think they're going in the right direction with that. There's so many things that change with college football. But I like where Deion's head's at. I think there's a lot of different things you can do to change the landscape. We got reactions from Adam live on the Georgia-Gonzaga game. Georgia not ready for the dog that is the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Taking a look at the rest of March Madness right now, McNeese State is now up 40-22.
6 minutes into the game, they have 7 turnovers and they're 1 for 8 from the field. Is that good?
That's not good. Well, North Carolina had that many turnovers. The difference was Gonzaga's scoring off the turnovers, where San Diego State did not. Zags for 3, bang, 21-3. Wow. Georgia doesn't even fall 21-3 in football games. And it's right now in basketball. First time, I guess. First time? Auburn's up on Alabama State, 68-47. That game's almost over. McNeese State still hanging strong against Clemson, 43-24 with 13 minutes to go. And BYU is starting to separate a little bit with VCU with 90 seconds left in the first half. They're up 34-26. Yeah, Gonzaga off to a good start. I don't think the spring game needs to be a smash the numbers in the chat. Spring game could be against yourself and then play the whatever game against whatever. You could scrimmage during the week or whatever, or right before the season starts. UCSD will tip off at 7:00 tonight. Should be a fun game against Michigan. We've talked about that on the show. I want to thank all of you for joining us today on the Braden Surprenant Show. We're getting ready for Quinn and Chris coming up next. They'll keep you updated on the NCAA tournament throughout the afternoon. And, of course, we'll continue that tomorrow. Hopefully all of you guys and most of you guys can come out and say hi at Dave & Buster's in Mission Valley tomorrow as we broadcast live all day long in celebration of the biggest college hoops tournament of the year. Ben and Woods will kick things off at 6 a.m. I will be on at 10 a.m., and then Gwen and Chris will be on at 2 p.m. Before Matt Scraby takes over at 6 p.m. Breakfast burrito station, drink specials on mimosas, Bloody Marys, and beer throughout the day. Basketball shooting competition, hourly raffle giveaways. Join us at Dave & Buster's at 2931 Camino del Rio North tomorrow for a full day of fun with your favorite fan talk shows. Look forward to that. We are a week out from opening day. Opening day is next week. We'll be playing baseball right now. Padres will be like in the third inning, I think, at this point in time. A week from today, talking real baseball next week. Can't wait. 7 days out. We will be at Baja Ricks on opening day. And then coming up on that Saturday of opening weekend, we will be outside Tom's Watch Party, which is right outside Gallagher Square for the East Village Block Party. So a lot of us in the community, be sure to come check us out. For Adam Klug, I'm Braden Surprenant. Thanks again for tuning in to the Braden Surprenant Show. Gwynn and Chris coming up next. San Diego #1 Sports Station, 97.3 The Fan.